Aloha Pumeana Kako. The May 22nd, 2024 Neighborhood Board Number 34 meeting is called to order. Welcome to our Makakilo Kapolei Honokai Hale Community Forum. My name is Anthony Paris and I serve your chairperson. We are holding a hybrid meeting and we have communities live and in person at Kapolei Hale, conference rooms A and B, and on WebEx. For order and decorum, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand in person or your virtual hand online, and then wait for the presiding officer in order to recognize you before speaking. And when you do speak, please introduce yourself and only address your comments to the chair. If I missed any hands in person or online, please get the attention of our neighborhood board assistant, Mr. Logan Hutchinson here. And he will throw a eraser or a pen at me, and then I will pay attention better. Speakers have 3 minutes to comment on any item. Those giving reports this evening will be taking 10 minutes. Presentation materials are live and accessible on our cloud drive, and you can get the links for that from the Honolulu City Council Neighborhood Board website, specifically on the PDF agendas. Please remember to keep all of your devices silent unless you're medical professionals and that you need to be called to the emergency room. We'll forgive you. And please keep yourself on mute when you're on WebEx so that we don't get to hear all of your amazing conversations with your loved ones. Okay. This is our community forum, so please, everyone is asked to engage with the spirit of aloha. Be free to vigorously debate the agenda items. Remember to treat each other with respect, especially when you're passionately advocating. And let's honor everyone by making sure we do our work well and get out on time. Are there any questions on our policies or procedures for this evening? Hearing none, mahalo. And with that, I'll ask our neighborhood board assistants to do the roll call.
Bosler. Dudley.
Here.
Pereira. Kahele. Khan. Lidstone. Singleton. Tala. Paris. We do have quorum at this time, Chair, with 6 of 9 board members present.
Thank you very much. First up on the docket is for our city monthly reports. We welcome up Honolulu Fire Department.
Good evening. My name is Charigashi with the Kapolei Fire Station. Incident statistics for the month of April. For fires, we've had 1 structure, 6 wildland or brush, 7 nuisance fires, no cooking fires, and 15 activated alarms. For emergencies, we've had 169 medicals, 3 motor vehicle collisions with pedestrians, 8 motor vehicle crash or collisions, no mountain rescues, no ocean rescues, and no hazardous materials incidents. Our fire safety tip this month is wildland fire awareness, prevention, and preparedness. Wildland fires significantly threaten Hawaii's landscapes, wildlife, and communities. With dry conditions and everyday activities contributing to the increased risk, it's crucial to take proactive measures to prevent and mitigate wildland fires. Number 1, reduce fuels and the possibility of ignition of your landscape by maintaining your yard and cleaning your gutters. 2, clear vegetation 10 feet around campfires, barbecues. Keep a shovel and water supply nearby and put them out cold before walking away. 3, ensure machinery and recreational vehicles with operating spark arresters are maintained regularly. And for more online resources, go to fire.honolulu.gov or honolulu.gov/DEM. Are there any questions?
Mahalo for the report. Are there any questions for Honolulu Fire Department from fellow board members? Are there any questions from the community at large? Hearing none, thank you for your service. We appreciate the report. At this time, we'd like to welcome Honolulu Police Department for their monthly report.
Aloha Board Chair, members, community. Sergeant Fumi Moroka with Honolulu Police Department, District 8 Community Policing Team. I have the stats for April. Starting with motor vehicle thefts, we had 50 in our district. Oh, I'm sorry, 50 in our district, 18 in Kapolei, Makakilo area. Burglaries, 18 in the district, 4 in our area. Thefts, there were 163 in the district, 77 in Kapolei, Makakilo. Unauthorized entries into motor vehicle, 40, of which 14 was in our area. 338 total citations issued in the area. Total calls for service, 6,552, of which Kapolei had 2,158. Just one thing to mention, it is graduation season. Ask that you watch over your loved ones, and if there's celebration involving alcohol, to give them a ride, arrange for a ride, or have them use an Uber or something like that. That's just to be safe. And if there's any questions, I can answer them or try to answer them now.
Thank you for the report. Are there any questions from fellow board members? Are there any questions for HPD from the community at large? Okay. Hearing none, we appreciate it, and best of luck during this graduation season, making sure you take care of our loved ones that were hard-headed and never take your advice.
Yep. Have a good Memorial Day weekend, everybody. Stay safe. Aloha.
Okay. Do we have the Board of Water Supply representative with us this evening? Okay, we'll circle back. Let's go to Deputy Director Keith Suzuka for Mayor Rick Blangiardi. Director Suzuka online?
Hello.
Yay, we got you. Aloha.
Hi. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for indulging me today. Let's see. I guess the first thing is I wanted to report on the Skyline ridership. And the ridership for the month of April was 95,238. It's a little bit down from last month, which was about 99,000, but it's been hanging there in somewhere in the 90,000s. With respect to announcements, I guess the ones that I wanted to bring to your attention is that the mayor's town halls are continuing. Last week's was canceled. That was supposed to take place out on the North Shore, but tomorrow the mayor's having his town hall out in the Hawaii Kai area at, I think, Kokohead Elementary School. That will be the 8th one, and there are 11 altogether. Other than that, I just wanted to give you my responses to some questions and requests that were made at the last board meeting. The first one was to the Department of Transportation Services, and it dealt with the Velo Street traffic study and a request for a Velo Street traffic study. The request was, can a traffic study be conducted on Velo Street to determine the viability of speed mitigation measures? People utilize Velo Street starting at the intersection of Velo Street and Panana Street down to Velo and Kulihi Street as a way to avoid Makakilo Drive and frequently speed up and down the street. The response from DTS is the Department of Transportation Services will conduct a study which will include a review of the area's traffic collision history, traffic surveys, and a site investigation. DTS will inform the board of its findings upon completion of the study. The second request that we had was for HPD, and it was similar. And it basically asked if HPD can occasionally station officers on Fellow Street to help limit speeding. The HPD's response is from May 1 through 1 to 3, May 1st is 3rd, 2024, District 8 patrol officers made checks of Velo Street at various times throughout the day and did not observe any speeding. Their presence may have helped to deter traffic violations. As staffing and caseload permits, officers will continue to monitor the area and take appropriate enforcement action when violations are observed. That's all that I have to report back on. I'd be happy to take back any questions or concerns that you may have.
Thank you, Director Suzuka, for the report, and well done on your homework assignments. Are there any questions from our fellow board? Recognizes Secretary Michaela Lindstone.
Mahalo. I have a student who has a holo card and she uses it. She's a high school student. She uses it to go to school to ride the rail. And her backpack was stolen, and with that, her holo card. And the only way for a youth to get a replacement holo card is for the parents to go to the Kalihi station to get a replacement. But her parents haven't, they both work. So they're unable to go to the Kalihi station. So she hasn't been able to go to school in over a month and a half. And is there any way that our youth can get a replacement card in another way than having their parents go to the Kalihi station?
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't know, but we will look into that. So I guess what you're saying is that no other city hall would be able to process the youth holo pass. Is that correct?
That's correct. I even tried to help her. When she first got the card, it was mailed to her, but to get a replacement card, the only way a youth can get a replacement card is for the parents to go to the Kalihi station physically and get a replacement card. And this is for our youth.
Okay, got it. You mean about how old? Like, I guess high
junior.
school, junior. Okay, got it. Thank you so much. I'll
Mahalo.
look into it and get back to you.
Thank you. Any other questions from fellow board members for the mayor's office? Any questions from the community at large? Come, please introduce yourself and state your question.
My name is Ronnie Munikata. I live up in Makakilo. I have a suggestion for the young lady. Even though she can't go to school, which is more social interaction, she can contact the school and have them email her the homework and online. That's right. But, yeah, unfortunately, high school is more than just homework. It's connection. And yeah, I see that being a junior, this is a big deal. She's going to be a senior next year. Isn't there a way you can get a holo card here at the Kapolei Hale? Wouldn't it be, I mean, we're the second city. Suggestion, please.
I 100%. I'm shocked that you can't do it in Kapolei Hale.
Okay, mahalo for the community comment. Are there any other questions or comments for the mayor's office? Hearing none, you have a light load on homework this week.
Thank you very much. But we'll look up on that one item. Thank you.
Okay, mahalo nui. Let's head to Councilmember Andrea Tupola. Is she your representative online?
Hi, Kika Tupeni here online.
Hey, aloha Kika, welcome.
Hi, Chair. Hi, Board. Sorry for her absence today. She actually flew to the Big Island. So, but all I have to report today is that we have a crime town hall coming up next Tuesday. This will be at Honouliuli Middle School. This will be at 6 p.m. And this crime town hall is following the very first one we had last year. And then we had another one at Maili Learning Center, and then a third one at Arca Safety. So this would be the fourth one following up from all of the community concerns and more concerns that were added. And this one, we're bringing it to Kapolei this time, so, or more so Eva. Other than that, I'm open for questions, and that's all we have to report.
Thank you very much to Council Member for co-hosting the Town Hall on Crime, and to Representative Diamond Garcia, and to Senator Gabbard. Are there any questions from fellow board members? Chair recognizes Dr. Keone Dudley, Vice Chair.
Is this on? Recently, the state legislature gave the counties, the possibility of regulating different things about housing. And, that's a tremendously great concern that people from foreign places are buying up the houses. People from the mainland are buying the houses and using them as short-term rentals. And our people can't afford to live here. And it's up to the city council now to see what they can do. We would like to see, the people that I speak for would like to see some really strong laws that bring the price of houses back down, because people have to sell them, and that make way for our people to buy. There was an article in the paper yesterday that said that in 2021, 44% of our people could afford to buy a house. In 2022, that had dropped to 30% of our people could buy a house 1 year. Okay, in 2023, that went down to 20%. Less than half the number that could buy a house can no longer buy a house in 2 years only. It's time to do something so that our people can afford to live here. I just want to say, I do think that if the presidential election winds up in a way that's going to tear people apart, there's going to be a big split in this nation. And at that time, I see the opportunity for Hawaii to become the Hawaiian Kingdom again. And if we can't do anything before then with the city council, believe me, I am going to be pushing people to make a big, big change in our government. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dudley, for raising concerns over radically increased housing prices, which is pricing out current and future generations of keikiokaina, those that actually are born here in Hawaii. And thank you for recognizing that from the grassroots, we have the power to do something about it. And hopefully, Councilmember Tupola is empowered to help us at the City Council to address those concerns. Are there any other questions from our fellow board members? Any questions or comments for our honorable council member from the community at large? Oh, Chair recognizes Dr. Amy Bosler, board member.
Next time our representative is with us, I would really appreciate an update on the park situation. Last time we had spoken or heard from her, she had said there was, I'm not sure if it was a pig or an inquiry was put in place to have people go out and look at the park, the playground area specifically. But we've had, in the past month, I've had multiple community members contacting me saying that this is becoming more of a concern, and we have been bringing this to her since last July. So just wondering if this is moving forward and what we need to do to help.
Chair will recognize Parks and Recreation Chair Michaela Lindstone to provide any context.
Yeah, I believe Councilmember Tupola did give an update last meeting, on the situation with parks and the shortage, and talked about how the director mapped out the shortage and made it really clear, and that's really where the problem is, and they'll be working from there. But she did give an update last meeting.
So Kika, to summarize, it will be really helpful to just get a status update from where we were last time. These are both on the status of the regional park concerns, including the playground and all of the parks across the west side of Oahu, which we found out at the last meeting has perennially and chronically been understaffed. So we have been getting less staff than every other area across the island. So we appreciate Councilmember for helping us to understand and clarify that, and we will work with her to make sure that we get our fair share of staffing to take care of our community parks. Okay, any other questions or concerns from the community at large? Hearing none, appreciate Kika and safe and Godspeed to Councilmember as she's on Hawaii Island.
Thank you.
Let's now turn to Uncle Frank Ganadio, our OMPO representative from our community.
Yes, in the May Citizen Advisory Committee meeting, Executive Director Mark Garrity was absent, but he filed his report that the Policy Board received and accepted a presentation on the Overall Work Program, or OWP. The presentation was planning for improved resilience to coastal hazards through green infrastructure. The board's next meeting is currently scheduled for 28 May. The CAC approved submission of the OWP for 2024-2025 to the Policy Board. It then received a presentation on an energy conservation and emissions reduction plan for transportation by Dan Paulson of the City and County of Honolulu Office of Climate Change, Sustainability, and Resiliency. He discussed decarbonization of the Department of Transportation Services fleet with an electric vehicle or EV transition plan operating on 100% renewable energy by 2035. He also covered upgrading bus services, providing subsidies to city employees under a transportation demand management plan, using bus rapid transit lanes to extend the reach of rail in mobility corridors, demand-based parking, and having 17,000 EV charging stations by 2045. During a Q&A period, Mr. Paulson anticipated a new alternative to lithium batteries, as well as the ability to recharge the lithium batteries that currently exist. I asked if the Hawaii Department of Transportation Service has a similar emissions reduction plan, and also whether or not EVs will have to pay a road usage fee in the future, since their drivers do not pay gasoline taxes. The department will have to get back to me with answers to those questions. Concerning the completion of Makakilo Drive, Mr. Chair, I submitted my comments on the new transportation improvement program, which excludes the drive. I believe others in the community also made their feelings known. Mahalo from Oceanside, California.
Thank you, Uncle Frank, for providing the report, even though you are in California. The wonders of WebEx. Are there any questions or comments for Uncle Frank on the OMPO report from the board? Chair recognizes Board Member Hale.
Aloha, Uncle Frank. Thank you for your thorough reports every month. Just my inquiry is about what is the status on the suggestion of moving the HOV lane from exit 7 to exit 1A next to Home Depot? You have any idea on that, sir?
No, I don't. I haven't heard anything about that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member. We will follow up with our Transportation Chair on your inquiry. Are there any other questions from fellow board members? Hearing none, are there any questions from the community at large regarding the OMPO report? Please come, introduce yourself, and raise your question or comment.
Aloha, I'm Sheila Medeiros. Just have a question on the batteries of these EVs. What is the plan for the disposal of these batteries? Right now, we have issues with landfills. So now we're gonna add these batteries and the windmills, I know they are filling up landfills. So what's the plan for that?
If you want me to answer, I am not aware of a plan. As far as I know, the lithium batteries go to the landfills.
Okay. And thank you, Uncle Frank, for providing that response. Please come introduce yourself and raise your question or concern.
Yeah, my name is Tom Schmidt. And all my neighbors are asking, why aren't they finishing Makakilo Drive? And when is it expected to be completed?
You want me to answer, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Go right ahead, Uncle Frank.
We've been fighting for this. You may not be aware that the extension of the drive, or the completion of it, I should say, was on the Transportation for Oahu Plan 2025 that came out in April of 2001, 24 years ago. Ever since, the drive has been in and out of something called the Transportation Improvement Program, or the TIP. It's currently not in the new TIP, and we have been fighting to do something about it. I submitted a long set of comments concerning that. We have Senator Gabbard trying to do something about it right now. We have a number of people in the community that have been trying to get their points across, and we met with the mayor about a year ago, and he sort of mentioned that possibly there'll be money, but meanwhile it hasn't occurred. I believe we have DTS coming up. You might want to bring that question up again when the DTS representative is there.
Thank you for the brief response, Uncle Frank, because this is pages long of the history of the saga that is the Makakilo Drive extension. So,
Do we have a representative here from the state?
from the state, we do have representatives from the state here, and they will be speaking when it is their time.
Okay,
And-
thank you.
Yep. And we also have DTS representatives that will be speaking presentations this evening. So just to affirm the good work of our community members and advocates that have been continually following the Makakilo Drive extension saga. And as I understand it, the next step is for our community to advocate for it to be once again placed on the TIP, or the Transportation Improvement Program. So we can't get the funding released until we get back onto that. So that's the next practical bureaucratic procedural step. Doesn't mean we can't take any other steps, but that's the bureaucratic procedural step that we need to take next. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for Uncle Frank and the OMPO report? And thank you for your service, Uncle Frank, for continuing to represent our interests there with OMPO.
Roger.
That concludes our city reports. Board of Water Supply, are they online at this time? Okay, hearing none, I'll do a final call after our state reports for any outstanding reports. And we will now get to the presentation portion of this evening. First off, we have H Power Facility Covanta contract and the process for reusing/recycling ash for construction materials. And with us this evening should be Deputy Director Michael O'Keefe from the Department of Environmental Services. So when you're live and ready to go, we're all yours. Thank you for being here with us.
Aloha Chair, board members, Mike O'Keefe with the city's Department of Environmental Services. So as Chair just mentioned, I'm going to run through some high-level information on the city's contract with Covanta, who is the contracted owner-operator for H-Power, and then also talk about the city's upcoming, upcoming project to recycle ash from H-Power into commercial construction materials, mainly aggregate. So next slide, please. So just a brief overview of the agenda here. You can go to the next slide, please, Logan. So first and foremost, just want to touch on some of the city's goals for its waste management program. Two mainly. First being to reduce the volume of waste prior to disposal, and secondly, to increase landfill diversion, or another way of saying that is decrease the amount of material that's going to the landfill, first through source reduction, second through recycling, and then lastly through H-Power. Next slide, please. Overview of H-Power. So this is a big picture of the entire facility. The city is the owners. It was built, designed, built, and operate and is currently operated and maintained by Covanta. Covanta recently went through a name change. They're now called Reworld. That was pretty recent, as of like 2 weeks ago. The first part of the facility came online in 1990. We call that the refuse-derived fuel, or the RDF side. The mass burn side of the facility came online in 2012. Mass burn, as the name implies, is just kind of like a big boiler that there's no pre-processing involved. You can just kind of dump trash in there without much. Yes. Sure. I'll try to be closer. Thank you. So altogether, between the mass burn side of H-Power and the RDF side of H-Power, the facility has about 2,900 tons of capacity per day, capable of generating up to 68.5 megawatts of power, which is roughly equivalent to 10% of the island's energy needs. And you can see the rest there, about 170 employees. Next slide, please, Logan. So one of the things I'm going to talk about, the main thing I guess I'm going to talk about tonight is the ash recycling project called HARA. HARA stands for Honolulu Advanced Resource Recovery from Ash. And I don't know, Logan, if you could maybe go back one slide. You can see the building all the way at the top of the screen right there, right next to the ocean. That's the building that we're looking at from the front of H-Power. And then on the next slide is actually the close-up of that building. And right to the right of there, you see kind of that shape with around the pavement. That's the Kapolei. That's the brand new Kapolei Convenience Center that was opened last year. Next slide, please, Logan. So a few talking points on why this ash recycling program is important for the island. So after all material is either source reduced, recycled, or processed at H-Power, all of the ash from that process goes to Waimanalo Gulch, and that's about 10 to 20% of what goes to H-Power in the beginning. So 10 to 20% of that comes out as ash and residue. So what this HARA project will do, this ash recycling project will do, is take that ash and through a process will extract any remaining metal from the ash and aggregate from the ash, thereby reducing the amount of ash that ends up going to the landfill by about an additional 60%. And I'll get into what that means in a couple of slides. Next slide, please, Logan. So this is kind of a schematic of the facility, of the entire facility, including the existing H-Power facility kind of in the center, and then where the location of the new ash recycling facility is going to be. And then just a very high level process description on the right there. At the existing facility, both on the refuse derived fuel RDF side and on the mass burn side, there will be technologies basically to separate and collect bottom ash and dry and fly ash. Bottom ash is like the heavier stuff that kind of falls to the bottom, and fly ash, as the name implies, it's the lighter, fluffier stuff that goes up into the air that doesn't sink. That stuff, the bottom ash in particular is what's going to be used for the ash recycling project. And so what's going to be done is the bottom ash from the facilities will be trucked through the plant to the building all the way on the left-hand side that you see there, where the HARRA process will be developed and deployed. That's where some additional processing will occur. I mentioned that there'll be some additional metal extraction there, and then they'll be conditioning the aggregate that's extracted from that bottom ash for suitable uses like construction fill or construction aggregate, even road or asphalt manufacturing as well. Ultimately, the residuals from the bottom ash that are not used for the aggregate process are going to be taken back to the other side of the facility, used to condition, moisten, densify the fly ash, and then that residual, the fly ash and whatever residual bottom ash won't be used in the aggregate production process. We'll just that will be basically the 40% of what's left going to the landfill. Next slide, please, Logan. And then here's where we're at with the ash project right now, the ash recycling project. So a couple of elements to this project. We have to modify our operations permit for H-Power in order to bring this system online. The application to do that was submitted pretty recently, as was the application for the ash recycling project itself. Both of those modifications have to be approved by our regulator, which is the State Department of Health. The preliminary design for the project has been completed. Now that and that was needed for the application process. Now that the application is in, the project team is progressing on a more advanced design. And assuming we can get permit approval within the next 4 to 6 months or so, that's what the project timeline looks like. So construction 2025, and then partial operation by 2026, and then full-scale operation by sometime in 2027. And all that timeline does depend on how and when we're able to get the entire project permitted, including a modification to the existing solid waste, the whole H-Power solid waste facility permit, and the ash recycling project itself. And both of those permit applications, like I said, are with the regulator right now. Next, please, Logan. And then some high-level benefits to the ash recycling project. I mentioned that the main benefit is additional landfill reduction. So right now, that equates to less trucks going to the landfill to deliver ash from H-Power. Right now, there's about 20 trucks a day that go between H-Power and Waimanalo Gulch. If this project is able to come online as successful, that number of trucks will reduce to 8 by about 60%. Ash is one of the main, actually, I think ash might be the largest element of waste that still goes into Waimanalo Gulch at this point. And so through this project, if we can reduce the volume of ash by 60%, wherever the next landfill is going to be, that's going to, drastically, given the volume of ash that's currently generated, that's going to drastically extend the life of the next landfill. And then, yeah, I mentioned it's kind of a closed loop approach, this project. We don't, every ton of this aggregate that we're able to create through the ash recycling project means less stuff that we have to import. Right now, very rough estimates are that the project could generate about 75,000 tons of aggregate from H-Power ash. And then additionally, kind of as a secondary benefit, not just the aggregate generation, but the the additional metal recycling that will go on with the ash recycling project as well. That metals will be pulled out. That's that much less material that has to go to the landfill, and that revenue, that metal can actually be sold for a revenue that comes back to the city taxpayers. Next, please. And that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you for your time.
Mahalo nui loa for the presentation regarding next steps for H Power and the reuse or recycling of ash. We will go to questions first from board members, and starting with Dr. Keone Dudley, Vice Chair.
This sounds so fantastically good. You've come to the neighborhood board for a reason. Is it so that we can cheer you on, which I would like to do? Or are there problems that we need to know about?
No, we would appreciate the cheering on, but no, there's no problems right now. You know, this is, I will say that this type of project is only done in one other municipality in one other district in the country. It's in, there's a facility in Pennsylvania outside of Philadelphia. So it's definitely cutting edge stuff. And, you know, just getting to this stage, being able to submit a permit was quite difficult and took a lot of time. And, you know, I'll, you know, be upfront that the challenge is there are some constituents in the ash that are not great. You know, it's bottom ash. It's the leftovers of whatever there is from incinerating all the trash that we generate on Oahu. The challenge is extracting the useful stuff from that ash, mainly the aggregate, and so that the rest can go for disposal. And when we deploy the useful stuff out in the environment, that there's no adverse impact to health or safety in that being out in the environment. So making sure that we can extract stuff that's safe, and it's highly regulated. There's allowable levels for every single element that's in this ash. As long as we can develop a process and a project that can extract elements and everything is below acceptable levels, it'll be permitted, and then we can use it. But it won't be permitted unless the regulators determine it's safe.
Okay, thank you. We'll go next to board member Moon Hale.
Thank you for your presentation. What's the final products going to be used as?
So it'll be an aggregate, and there's really no limitation on its use. We think that the most common use will be for as aggregate as a mix in like cement or asphalt, but that it's not limited to that. There'll be you could use it as like pipe cushion or fill or something like that. There's really no limit.
Chair recognizes Secretary Michaela Lindstone.
What about mulch? Could you use it as mulch? I mean, if you extract the good stuff.
Potentially, I think so. I personally haven't thought about that yet, but if it can be deployed in those other applications, I don't see why not. Yeah.
Chair recognizes board member Dr. Amy Bosler.
Thank you. We, back in September, had a fairly intense, in-depth presentation on the dangers of this ash. So that's hearing that it might be reduced 60% is a great benefit for our community. I'm just wondering about, is there going to be continuous monitoring of the air quality, or is it still going to be that occasional or so many times a month or so many times a year, and wondering what chemicals are going to be monitored, what metals, that kind of thing, because you were talking a little bit about the fly ash, and I think that's what we're really concerned about, that's getting released.
Yeah, absolutely. So with respect to H Power, there are stringent monitoring requirements, and that will not stop. fly ash is not going to be a part of the ash recycling project. That's going to among the material that'll continue to get landfilled. And then yeah, for the ash recycling project itself, the permitting process is really going to flesh out what our monitoring and reporting requirements are for the material that we're making. So to be determined on that, but there's no doubt that that's going to be an element of what we're going to be required to do for the stuff that we make.
And then one more follow-up.
Right.
We had learned in September that our burners were quite out of date at H Power, and just wondering realistically how long this project might be going.
And in the project, you mean for like H Power in general, but ash recycling or
All
of it? Yeah.
I think the concern was, well, how long are we going to be using these burners? Because not many states are using this anymore because the ash is so toxic.
Yeah, certainly. So talked about it in the beginning. There's kind of two parts of the facility. There's the older RDF side that was built in 1990, I think, or brought online in 1990, and then the mass burn side that was brought online in 2012. There are very, very, very little of that old style left. About 7 or 8 years ago, we did a fairly large refurbishment project for that part of the facility, and to get it to extend its life a little bit longer. The mass burn side 2012 is still relatively new, but it's starting to need some TLC, and so we occasionally bring that offline for scheduled maintenance and then bring it back online throughout the year. But to answer your question, eventually that old side is going to go by the wayside. And what we're doing right now is kind of planning in anticipation of that. We don't want to reduce capacity at H Power because if we burn less trash there, that means it just has to go to the landfill, and that's the last thing we want to do. So we have to create create redundancy so that it can bridge us to what the future holds for trash processing. Is it going to be another mass burn unit like what we have that was brought online in 2012? Possibly. Is it going to be something different, maybe more technologically advanced? Hopefully. But we're in the planning process for that right now.
Any other questions from fellow board members? Hearing none at this time, let's open up the forum to community members at large. Questions regarding H Power? Uncle, come and let's get you a microphone so you can. Okay, great. Thanks.
How much is it costing us to generate a kilowatt of power with your H plant?
It's a great question. So I mentioned that we have a contract with the facility operator. They operate and maintain the facility, Covanta, now called Reworld. In that contract, we pay them to basically take care of the whole thing for us. And it's an annual fee. We pay them about $70 million a year. And then there's a revenue return on H Power, right? So the city makes money from tip fees that trash haulers pay when they come in to deliver trash. They make money on metals that we recycle at H Power. And then there's also money made when the electricity that we generate at H Power is sold to HECO. Round numbers, I mentioned we pay Covanta about $70 million a year. We make about 80 in electricity sales alone. And then I'm a little rough on the other numbers, but I think for tip fees, the fees that people pay when they come in to deliver trash, it's like 35 million. And then metals, I think it's a few million, but it's less. It's the smallest number.
Hasn't anybody done any accounting and added it all up and established the cost per kilowatt hour of electricity? We got a lot of revenue coming in, got some expense, but boil us to how much we're paying per kilowatt hour of electricity.
Oh, it's a good question, but it's a net revenue. So the cost to run and operate the facility and everything that goes along with that is about on average about $20 million less than the revenue that we generate from all those things that I just mentioned. So it's a net revenue. And one of the things I like to mention too is that while it does make money for the city and the city taxpayers, and that's a very important element of H-Power, the primary reason that it exists is so we don't have to send material to the landfill. And in that vein, I like to talk about how through recycling and source reduction in H-Power, we have one of the highest landfill diversion rates in the country at about 82%. So of all of the trash that we generate as an island, we only send, another way to think about that is that we only send 18% of that for landfilling. And that includes currently H-Power ash. And that's a super high number. We're way in the top echelon of municipalities as far as that number is concerned across the country.
Yeah, but we still have to know what it costs us per kilowatt hour, or we can't make any intelligent decisions. I mean, we can buy nuclear power for $0.015 a kilowatt hour, or you can get wind power for about 7 cents a kilowatt hour, or you can get solar for 14 cents a kilowatt hour. But we have to have cheap power so our people can afford to live here, so they can afford to buy houses. And our expenses, our electricity is going absolutely bananas. And it sounds like a great project, and I think it's experimental. In a lot of ways, it's only 2 plants like that, so I'm sure we're learning a lot. But we got to get down to how we can generate power so we can distribute it so people can afford to live. And I don't hear that coming from your committee. We should know exactly, with all the factors, how much we're paying per kilowatt hour for electricity. And
So
that's what I'd like, that's the number I'd like to see.
I agree with, sir, everything that you said. And I just want to reiterate, we're not paying anything. We're generating electricity, and the net revenue that we earn, and when I say we, the city and county taxpayers, the net revenue that we earn is about $20 million a year.
But how much is that per kilowatt hour? That's it.
So thank you, community member, for raising those questions and concerns, and we'll see if we can get those answers in specific back to you next time. Next community member, please introduce yourself and question or concern.
The noisy Ronnie Munikata again. My question, and I guess I'm always going to ask this question, is how much toxic material is slipping by? I mean, we're talking about using it as aggregate. I mean, aggregate means asphalt, bricks. I mean, people build bricks out of homes. People are going to live in this stuff. Is there a testing system that really works? Because let's face it, the old style of, oh yeah, the paper mill is wonderful. And then you see all this poison being dumped into streams. They got rid of it. They made a profit. They poisoned the land. So somebody asked about mulch. Yeah, it would be great to use it for mulch if it wasn't toxic. And now we find out that half the stuff on our plantations, DDT, all of that stuff is poisoning the land. So I'm concerned about the ash as it's reduced to ash to be used as aggregate. And is it going to be tested on a continual basis? And is it have a long-term effect? Are there studies? I mean, if the only other area is Philadelphia, who's monitoring that? Except the EPA, and they don't have enough people. And people are talking about getting rid of them. That's only my question.
Yeah, and it's a great question. And, so a couple of things on that. We absolutely anticipate monitoring requirements if and when we're able to get this project online. I think I mentioned that's what's going to be fleshed out in the permit process. So when the DOH is reviewing our application, they're looking at what we're reporting. They're looking at lab analysis reports of what's in the ash, and they're saying, okay, this is concerning, this is not concerning. If there's going to be this element in here, it has to be way down here if we're going to allow you to deploy this in the environment in order for us to approve a permit for this project. So there are many things that they're looking at as part of the permit review process, and we will undoubtedly have many requirements placed on us, including at the onset and continually monitoring and reporting. I don't have specifics because that's what's going to, if our permit is ever issued for this project, those requirements are going to be contained in there. They're developing them now, likely. But we would absolutely be happy to come back and report on exactly what those are.
My issue is that, we're a finite environment here. And anything that we put on the ground in our homes eventually goes into the ocean. And I'm concerned about the food we eat, the coral that's dying, and the fact that someday 150 years ago, or from now, my descendants are not going to be able to live here worry-free. I really don't want them to be on the moon. Lack of gravity affects your bones.
Mahalo, and because Auntie was not on live, those might not have heard her. She was basically expressing her concerns that given the cutting edge nature of the technology we're deploying, and that there might not be appropriate regulations in place to monitor those particular contaminants that are part of the process that will be released from the ash. She's concerned with it being impacted on the workers, going into the groundwater and going off and actually killing our corals. So the point is well taken, and thank you for providing that mana'o. Okay, the next community member, please introduce yourself and raise your concern or ask your question, please.
Aloha kako, my name is Kekoa Hulen. I wanted to ask about material of the ash. I'm talking about the whole process, whether to concentrate. Hazardous is that be because we have a whole conglomerate, and then you're going to consolidate that. And is it going to create even bigger hazardous material that you are generating? And if that is going to be the next thing that's going to be dumped into Waimanalo Gulch, we have a finite system there. There's only a limited amount of space that can go there, and we can't keep on filling it up full of more hazardous waste. So my concern is, do we have a backup plan? What is going to happen that cannot sustain the system that you're trying to, right? And can we do something about that? The problem, if you guys cannot control, what's your backup plan?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I've been careful to say this whole time that, the project it's new. It's only being done in one municipality in the entire country. But, we have, land is so scarce and sacred here, right? So we want to do everything that we can to use it to bury trash, basically. Like we want to divert as much material in a safe and responsible way from Waimanalo Gulch and whatever the site of the future landfill is going to be. If we can do that by creating a product that we otherwise import and spend a lot of money importing, and do that by creating a product that both federal and state regulators have told us is safe and is okay with, if you meet these limits and you do this monitoring and reporting. If we can deploy that in nature and in a safe and responsible manner, we're absolutely going to do that. But we have to, we're designing, we're going through permitting right now. We think we're going to get there, but but time will tell. The backup plan, something else might come along, but the backup plan is to go back to the drawing board and continue what we're doing, which is burning, recycling, source reduction, putting ash in the landfill. It's not ideal because other people are doing it, so we know it can be done. And we don't want to use the land to bury trash, but if we could do it in a safe and responsible way, that's what we're going to do.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Are there any other community members? Okay, so for those that are able, please come up so that we can actually, we get to see your smiling faces here, closer to the board members.
Mine will be fast. You know, I love the forward thinking, appreciate what E&V is trying to do to, you know, try to find new technologies and whatnot, the lessen the amount that goes into the landfill. My question is real simple. What are the chances that this will be used as justification to extend the life of the current environmental landfill yet again? You know, we went through, I don't know, maybe 5 deadlines, 1998, 2003, 2007, 2012, and maybe in 2021. Right now, the expiration date to close it for good is March 2nd, 2028. I know you had carefully said that this will be used at the next landfill. I appreciate that, but what are the chances this will be used against the community in this case? That you'll be putting less into the landfill, which is a good thing, but now you have more capacity, more life, and what's the chances of that being the justification for even another extension on this community? Thank you.
Before answering the question, could you let us know your name for the record,
My
please?
name is Kenneth Williams. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Williams. Great question. You know, simply stated, the ash recycling project and the deadline to close the landfill are completely unrelated. I'll just mention actually, it's posted on our website, and I believe the information is out there. As Mr. Williams mentioned, we have a deadline to close Waimanalo Gulch, March 2nd, 2028. I say it's not going to be an issue because of this. Waimanalo Gulch actually has, at the most recent assessment, which was done at the end of last year, actually has enough useful space to stay open until 2035. But the permit requirement deadline for closure is 2028, and so that's what'll happen. So if this project, and we hope it is, if this project is successful at diverting a whole bunch of material from the landfill, it doesn't play into the closure date. That's already set, even though there's more capacity at existing rates to 2035.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from fellow community members? Chair recognizes Board Member Dr. Amy Bosler.
Sorry, Chair. One more. You talked briefly about the new landfill, and I'm just wondering if there will be a double barrier at this proposed new landfill, because we're talking about this highly toxic ash. And that's one of the major problems with our current landfill is there's that one barrier, and this is very toxic. It can leach through. It does. It's very harmful for us to breathe, to have in our land. I mean, it would be, you know, it'd be better to just bury my cell phone, at least environmentally speaking, than to burn it and then bury the ash, even though it's much less space. This isn't as toxic. So I'm just wondering if there will be some ties between this, I'm sorry, the permitting process and considering the barriers for the new landfill to maybe handle better or more appropriately or more safely handle the ash.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So it is possible that when in part of the permitting process, the regulator says you need to, for the stuff that's not getting recycled into something else, you need to do X, Y, and Z at the landfill, and that's no problem. We'll do that. But you know, we don't have a new landfill site yet, so we really haven't done any design work for that next site. But I can say that the plan right now is to do double liner for the next landfill, and for those of you who have ever been up to Waimanalo Gulch to see the existing landfill and done, there's a tour that they give and everything like that. Like even a single liner is actually consists of several layers of like hard plastic and tarp and this and that and the other thing. So double liner actually means that there's like many layers of stuff and maybe you know too that you know it's happening at Waimanalo Gulch right now. It'll happen at the next landfill. There's groundwater monitoring wells so that we know that if there's infiltration into the ground, it'll get detected, and then you know crews are dispatched to fix whatever happens. That doesn't happen because the liner is so robust at Waimanalo Gulch. But there's all these mitigative and preventative measures that are in place and I would assume are going to be even more so at the next landfill.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions, comments, or concerns from the community at large? Okay, Uncle Frank, we'll go to you in California.
Yes, Frank Giannadio, Mr. Chief. Regarding the ash, I guess there is an expensive solution, plasma R gasification. I don't think anybody's moving toward it. Regarding my incomplete answer on lithium batteries, probably you can make a better response. How long would a lithium battery can be recharged? In other words, what's the life cycle of a lithium battery before it winds up in the landfill? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Uncle. I'm not sure that I know the answer to that question, but I can tell you that lithium, you know, we collect batteries at the 7 city convenience centers and the 3 transfer stations, and so we do not send any car batteries or the program is not to do some small lithium batteries sneak into the trash, get burnt at H Power, and end up in the ash probably. But we do have right now 10 different collection points around the island where we accept them.
Last call for any questions, concerns, or comments regarding the H-Power presentation and ENV's movement towards recycling the ash for construction materials. Okay, so just to wind it back, passed the resolution asking for monitoring that's above and beyond what the regulators asked for. The reason why we're doing this is because, for example, PFAS, which is what Board of Water Supply is monitoring in our water, is coming, things that are like from Teflon to like fire foam. It's happening all over the nation, but the regulators have been quite lax, and like finally the EPA has put up a standard for it. Our neighborhood board has taken a position for monitoring for a while. So we're wondering whether or not you guys would consider being open to monitoring things that we already know has a disparate impact on people's health. But the regulators from the national level or Department of Health has not have the staff capacities or has not been able to do that. Would you guys be willing to work with our community to make sure that we have at least the monitoring and to get the information out? Because right now, for example, the area emissions like standards we get from H-Power, it's like there's only 4 that's continuously monitored, some others at the annual level or quarterly level. And we're wondering what standards are you looking at when you're going to be treating the ash? Because the largest concern we hear from community members outside of us is you're just taking the landfill and putting it somewhere else, in someone else's road, in someone else's house, like in the construction materials. So we want to see if we can work with you to alleviate those concerns, because we know that you're trying to honor the INA. You're trying to make sure that we're not putting stuff in there to keep landfills open, and that you're willing to be innovative in order to handle our waste stream. And I applaud you for that, because I think we should be going from Opala as waste to Opala as resource. Our ancestors did this in closed loop society without mats and containers. So how can we figure out how to do that now? So how can we alleviate the concerns of our community members coming from Kailua, Kaneohe, and Wahiawa that's come before us that have had certain information presented to them regarding the pollutants in the ash, and that is going to end up in their roadways, in their new houses. So would you be willing to work with us even beyond the standards that are currently enforced at the federal state levels? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're this administration and our director are very forward-thinking, very technology-oriented, and very in touch with community concerns. So absolutely. I'm not personally familiar with the resolution, but you know, we should discuss.
Okay, great. We appreciate you coming out, and we thank you, and we'll follow up.
Mahalo.
Mahalo. Next up, we have Department of Transportation Services doing a recap on DTS projects in our district for Kapolei, Makakilo, and Honokai Hale.
Aloha, Chair. My name is Roger Morton. I'm the Director of Transportation Services. Can everybody hear me tonight?
Yep, you sound great.
Okay, thank you. I'm here tonight. First, I'd like to shout out to Mike O'Keefe. I was spellbound listening to his presentation, and it was very enlightening for myself. With me tonight is my deputy, John Nucci. He's going to give an update on the street projects that we've done, and both of us will be here to answer any questions that the board might have on aspects that are in our kuleana. So, John, are you there?
Aloha, I am here. Aloha, Chair Harris and board. Can you hear me?
You sound great too, John.
Okay, thank you. Wow, that means you can hear me. It doesn't mean I sound great. I'm going to start today with some of the street improvements we are looking at and some of the more forward looking improvements we do have. Most of them focus on the Makakilo neighborhood. We are doing some enhancements to two major roads in Makakilo, including we are putting in what are called roadway RPMs, and those are the bumps that you see along the white parking street lines along Makakilo Drive. And what that does is it offers not only an enhanced visual feedback as to where the lanes are, they help enhance the feeling that the lanes are narrower and encourage people to slow down. But it also provides a tactile feeling when people hit or run over them, such that it tends to help keep people more actively on the roadway within the lines. They actually do increase a lot of visibility at night. On a parallel road along Palailai Street, we are working to install curbs with delineators. So that again will help narrow the travel lane along Palailai Street, specifically in the areas including the marked crosswalk at the back entrance to Makakilo Elementary School and at the marked crosswalk at Kapolei Street intersection. And I think the board is well aware that a raised crosswalk was recently installed on Palailai and Anipe'ahi Street. The last thing we're looking at, we don't have an outcome yet, but we are assessing being able to return crosswalks to Makakilo Drive. The problem is when these roads were built and a lot of these crosswalks were provided, the standards regarding speed and safety were different. Our federal guidelines for that were different. And so when we assessed them recently, the roadway width and the speed of the roadway and the slope of the roadway led us with our federal guidelines to have to remove some of these sidewalks crossing Makakilo Drive without any further enhancements. However, we are looking at whether there are enough crossings there such that we may be able to warrant rapid rectangular flashing beacons, RRFBs, other people technically call them blinky lights, that are activated by the pedestrian and aid in crossing spans of roadways such as Makakilo Drive. I think that is about all that I have today. I can take any questions on any of those.
Okay. Thank you for the update on the Department of Transportation Services projects in our community, and mahalo for working with the State Department of Transportation to get that raised sidewalk in Palai Street to take care of our keiki because of the speeding issue. Chair recognizes Dr. Keone Dudley, Vice Chair.
Just want to thank you for what you said about Makakilo Drive. All the things that you talked about are things we need, and it's great to know that we're possibly going to get them. Keep up the good work.
Any other questions, comments from the neighborhood board members? Okay, hearing none. Any community questions or concerns? Okay, Uncle Frank, it's yours. Go right ahead.
Yes, I'd like to ask the directors what the status is of the final design of the completion of Makakilo Drive, because we've already spent $6+ million on it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll try to answer that for you, Frank. We did start with the RM Towel Company. We did start a design for that. We got to the point where Federal Highways has a policy that they won't fund or they won't really review studies unless they're on the tip. So it's a catch-22 type of situation where the project is not on the tip, and I can speak to that if you like. And Federal Highways will not review an EA or an environmental EIS unless the project is on the tip. Frank, I'm sure you have other questions, so I'll throw it back to you for that.
Well, as you know, it's been in and out of the tip for more than a decade now. And the OMPO staff has come up with some sort of grading system, and they come up with higher numbers for other projects. They don't take into consideration how many years the residents have waited for this drive. If they added a point for every year since it came out in the plan in 1993 and added a year for every year, at a point for every year it's been on the top 2025, which is next year will be the end of those projects, and the drive was on that. And it's obviously, I'm not the only one that it's an emotional issue for. There are a number of people in the community that are really unhappy about this, and we have a local representative who chairs the policy board, and we're just not getting anything done, and you know very well.
Sure.
Thank you.
And I'll speak to that a little bit, just for the members of the board, and I'm sure there'll be follow-on questions. But the TIP itself, well, first of all, the extension is on the long-range plan, and that is a good thing for the community, that it has been on the long-range plan for a long time, and it still remains on the long-range plan. Now, to move from the long-range plan to the TIP is an issue primarily because the TIP is fiscally constrained. The long-range plan is, I would describe it as more aspirational. The TIP is fiscally constrained. And what I mean by that is that the money for all the transportation projects that are federally funded can be estimated. And we do that every time we update the TIP. We estimate how much funding comes from all the different sources. Now, the city receives about 24 million a year from Federal Highways funding, and that funding is provided by law through a formula that the State Department of Transportation administers the federal highway money, and they sub-allocate the money that is due to the city through a formula, and that's about 24 million a year. Now, the cost for the Makakilo project a few years ago, I think the construction cost was estimated at about 60, 70 million. Our experience, even today, we had a project that we're doing where the cost estimate, even that we had, the current cost estimate was doubled what it really is. So the estimate that RM Tao came up with was 60 million or 70 million. That was dated in time about 6 or 7 years ago. So you have to escalate from there. That cost did not include other things like studies. It didn't include construction management. It didn't include those types of costs. So, at a minimum, the Makakilo project would be somewhere in the 150, maybe $200 million range to complete. And again, when you deal with the TIP, you deal with a fiscally constrained document to where all the projects add up, cannot be more than all the revenue that's projected. And so it's a question of doing it. Now, there's some good things. The state has really done, I think the state director of transportation has done a tremendous job of getting many of the deferred maintenance projects in the state completed or on the way to get completed. And that, eventually I think we will see it. But realistically, we would need the collaboration and the assistance of the state because the city is not going to put up the money without having federal funds paying for the bulk of that project. That's just the way it is. So the question for the community is, how can we work with AMPO? How can we work with the city? How can we work with the state to try to look at what they are? Now, the state's priorities they have two, the main ones, and then there's some others, but the two main ones are, number one is always safety, putting in projects that improve the safety. And the second big priority for the state is system preservation, making sure that the system is maintained in a good state, and they're making great progress on that one. I'll shut up here because I know there's going to be follow-on questions, but I'll throw it back to the chair for follow-on questions from Frank or from other members.
Thank you, Director, for providing that context. Are there any other follow-up questions from fellow board members or from our AMPO representative? Okay. Hearing none from, okay, Frank, you have your hand up again?
Yes, sir.
Go right ahead.
Hey, there are projects in the current TIP that were not in anybody's mind even a few years ago. I don't know if you saw the recent commentary opposing the Alawai pedestrian bridge, which is going to be anywhere from $40 to $60 million. It'll help pedestrians and bicyclists. It won't do anything for commuting drivers. And there are other projects like that, improving the sidewalks. I think that was about 160 million. And the one question I have for Roger is, what if the city council or state legislature were to allocate funding specifically for that project? Can that be done?
Well,
I'll keep quiet for now.
Let me speak to your first ones first. For the sidewalks, the 160, we have a pedestrian master plan, and we estimate that over the long term, we have more than $1 billion of substandard roads that need sidewalks. But our priority on those has been to seek discretionary funding for those. And those are going after specific projects, like the one for the streets is basically Safe Streets for All, which is one of the new federal programs. We go after those as discretionary funding. What we try to do is we try to address the program evaluation criteria that is made by the Federal Highways Administration, and we put a discretionary grant proposal, a competitive grant proposal together for those projects. And believe me, I really try to go for all of the discretionary projects that we have. I don't just pick and choose. But when I go to one, it's not that I can use the money for anything. It means that there are certain criteria and safe streets for all. Basically, it's local streets, it's improving sidewalks, it's putting in speed humps, it's doing those types of things. And we go for those, and maybe we win, maybe we don't. We didn't win 160 million. That's somewhere in a plan. I think we probably have been successful in winning about 10 million for that. And we're putting in some sidewalks in your area in the on the Waianae coast and in other areas on the island, primarily areas where they're near schools, where there's a demonstrated need. For the Alapono Bridge that we talked about, same thing, that we applied for a discretionary grant that had all kinds of criteria. And this is the same as the UMPO, you mentioned, Frank, the UMPO goals and objectives. The discretionary programs all have evaluation criteria, and we try to put in a competitive grant. Now, there's other grants in there like infra and others that conceivably could fund Makakilo. And I will, I'm not opposed to working with the community to try to get those. But I do want to emphasize that when we put in a competitive proposal, we're competing against every other municipality in the country. And so if we don't hit the evaluation criteria within each grant program, we don't get. That's just the reality, is that you have to turn in a competitive proposal. Can the city allocate money? Of course. If the city were willing to put in and pay the local share without the federal funding, yes, in theory, we could do that. But understand that we get about 300 million a year in bond funding that we use for capital programs, and that's distributed to many, many projects. So it's not like we just have an unlimited amount of money. We do, it is conceivable. We have done a lot of local funding for Salt Lake, and that's very much like Makakilo. That's a system expansion rather than other things. So yes, it's possible that we could do that, Frank.
Just one last comment. We're up to about $50,000 a foot for the extension of the drive. Thank you.
You got about, what do you got, about 4,000 feet or something? Is that, or maybe even less than that?
Right, 4,000 linear feet.
Right.
Okay.
Do the math for me, Frank. I'm sorry. It's been a long day.
No problem. Thank you very much for the updates on Makakilo Drive extension. Any other questions or concerns for DTS from the community at large? Yeah, please come to the microphone, identify yourself, and raise the question or concern.
Again, I'm Ronnie Munikata, and I came here specifically about this extension. And yes, discretionary funds. It annoys the heck out of me. Oh, okay. I'm already loud. Okay. It annoys the heck out of me. They're building a crossing bridge over Ala Moana Boulevard to get to the beach for the new high rises that are up there that nobody else can afford. I mean, $750,000 for a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment up there? This is ridiculous. And only 20% of local people can afford to buy a house, let alone $750,000 for a 1-bedroom. Now, I see this, and we built a rail system. We're the only city under 2 million people that has a rail system that goes to Halal. Sorry, it didn't go to the University of Hawaii. It's planned for a shopping mall. I'm sorry. The University of Hawaii, we would reduce traffic immensely. And we could actually get them to come to West Oahu to teach and they wouldn't have to park their car. I mean, honestly, if we had done this correctly sooner, you wouldn't have to worry about where are all the people from ever coming up and from Kapolei villages the minute they have a tsunami warning. They're not going to Honolulu. They're going to come up our roads, and there's no way out. If there's a clog like in Lahaina, emergency vehicles can't get to us. A helicopter could possibly land on the community rec center, but that's about it. How are we supposed to get around? It's not a discretionary thing. It's an immense need. And by the way, Komomai Drive, which they have now finally decided, has been under consideration for over 40 years. I do not want another 40-year wait. I'll be dead. As you can see, I'm very passionate about getting this extension done.
Mahalo for raising the concern again regarding the Makakilo Drive extension. Any other questions or concerns for DTS from the community? Please come introduce yourself.
My name is Leslie Keating. I wanted to bring up we're probably the biggest growing. We have the most units coming in, the most affordable units on the island are coming in Kapolei. And the congestion there at Farrington and Fort Barrett, everybody knows that's bad, but it will get worse. And this Makakilo extension is what's going to save that, because people can get out another way. People can get to Honolulu, which I think kids from Makakilo do go to that middle school. There's going to be a high school down there. And without that extension, at the rate we're growing, we need it. It's not like it's something we can kind of have now. It's something that we need so that our community can still grow at the rate the county is kind of forcing on us, which some great things about that, because we do need affordable housing, but it's also painful for the people that are actually living here. That, and then I also wanted to bring up Kapolei Parkway. When are the speed humps coming in for the schools, middle school, the high school, and the elementary Ho'okale? And also, it's such a big road. Can we have a protected bike lane? Like, I would love to see it all the way to Eva Beach, like a protected bike lane and into West Kapolei when it's finished. So those are my things. But I do want an update on the speed humps.
Let me speak to half of that anyway, and I'll ask John to also speak. But we are undertaking a planning study to improve our Eva side, west side bike system network. We don't have a construction project, but we do have, in collaboration with the state, we're going to be taking a look at what can we do to improve a nice corridor going all the way from Nanakuli to UH Manoa. A lot of that already exists. Some of it needs to be improved. Some of the links are missing, and that's what we're looking at, is how can we increase the links. Now, as to the roadways at Kapolei Parkway, yeah, that's a pretty big road. John, do you have any updates on those?
Yes, so we've done what we call quick build to kind of mitigate some of the speed and collision issues that we've had in and around Kapolei Parkway in the Mehana neighborhood, I guess Makai of downtown Kapolei. And I don't have a specific update as to speed humps for Kapolei Parkway, but we do have an opportunity. DTS again has applied for discretionary grants, and we're waiting to hear the results of that. That would actually, one of the issues why Kapolei Parkway is such a high-speed roadway is because it was designed in a time when traffic engineering was more designed about maximizing speed and flow. And I think back in those times when that was in vogue, we didn't really realize the negative effects that speed includes. More pedestrian crashes and higher speed crashes also lead to more fatalities. So if you look at Kapolei Parkway, I always kind of like to think about it as wide enough to land the plane on. I mean, it is a very wide roadway and it is designed for high speed. So part of our challenge right now is going to be to use the roadway to its best capability. And especially in the parts where it's not congested, that we want to make sure that we can encourage people to slow down. Again, so it's going to be a lot of signage and striping and a combination of potential speed humps and other mitigations. But this discretionary grant I just referred to would give us the opportunity to take up some of that lane space by potentially introducing bike lanes or bus lanes or other improvements to that neighborhood. So I don't have a concrete discretionary grant that I can say we've won yet, but we have applied and we feel very positively about it. And we can always come back to the board and talk more about it when we have more news to report.
Thank you. And before I forget, Director and John, thank you for being here. And regarding the discretionary funding, it will be super helpful if if there's anything the board can do at the grassroots level in order to spice up those applications to make it easier for the federal counterparts to actually select us. Please let us know, because during my tenure here, I don't think anybody has asked, except for the State Department of Transportation. They have asked, and we've provided support with letters from not just the board, but from community members, organizations, in order to increase our chances of beautifying our community together.
Yeah, and that's a great comment. And we do try when we're doing a neighborhood project to try to make sure that we get all of the different interests in the neighborhood, the elected officials, neighborhood boards, to weigh in, and that helps a lot if we get your support.
Absolutely, Chair. We would love to include these letters of support, and as you say, I mean, like, I can always use more spice, right?
Okay.
Aloha, thank you. I'm Sheila Medeiros. I just have a question since we're on roads. Is there any plan to provide maybe a sidewalk or a bike path for Farrington Highway that starts where the Kapolei Golf Course is and it goes all the way to Kualakai Parkway? Because there's a lot of times where there's just people walking on the sides, and this is an important roadway because it goes to West Oahu University, and you have kids, college students walking that path on the road and risking their safety just to get to school.
So I guess, as I said, we do have a planning study going on for that. And I know that when we first talked to Director Sniffen, one of the objectives that he would have with this project is to see whether we could weave in some pedestrian improvements along Farrington, all the way from Nanakuli on, so even further back than the golf course. But I mean, it is challenging from an engineering perspective because the rights of way are so narrow when you get into that Nanakuli type area. Our objective is, where possible too, with bikeways, that we would do it as a low stress type bikeway, either protected from the traffic with some type of barrier, or even off street where there's opportunities, and there are some in the Eva area, to go off street, so that we really provide a lower stress. We saw the unfortunate fatality we had this week on Kawakawa Avenue with what they called a bike lane, but that's about a 2.5 foot wide little striped area that is just not protected enough from traffic. What we hope
And
to
ma'am,
do. Go ahead, John.
To speak to that section of Farrington Highway, though, between Kapolei Golf Course headed east to Kualakai Parkway, that, as you know, is one of the remaining sections of what people call Old Farrington, right? But those remaining segments, there is a project in place that will extend the improved section of Farrington Highway beyond Kapolei Golf Course, cross over Kualakai, and I believe the Ho'opili DR Horton folk will be completing some of that, and some of that will be accomplished as an effort between state and city.
Awesome. Thank you for those updates. Any other questions or concerns from the community at large? Okay. So the last thing to emphasize some of the concerns we've been hearing from the community regarding roadways in specific is, one, the concerns over natural disasters, particularly fires, and those areas that only have one way in and out. So Makakilo is one of them. They're not the only one. Pacific Palisades is another. The entire west side, Oahu, from Honokai, Hale, all the way to Ke'au and Kaena. So we have communities that are isolated in times of disasters, and those that are fleeing from the plains that's going up to the mountains. They only have one way up. So that's one of the concerns we've been hearing. And the second is our fellow community member has raised it. Kapolei is the second city. We are slated for another 300,000 units. And right now we're at capacity with current infrastructure. So Makakilo Drive Extension, North-South Road, like continuity project, Kualakai Parkway continuity project is critical because otherwise we already hear and foresee that every single project that's being proposed will likely face opposition because of the quality of life has absolutely decreased. From the northwest build out of the villages of Kapolei to the Department of Homeland's build out in East Kapolei to the DLNR build out in West Oahu area for affordable housing. Like all of these projects are on the docket right now. And yet the regional infrastructure is not sufficient. So we beseech you to help us help you to complete these necessary roadways because otherwise we're going to halt construction on the west side. That's what we foresee from the community conversations we're having. And our members are tradespeople, so they get it. So we're going to face that political and social issue if we can't find a way forward to make the regional infrastructure appropriate for our current vision of the second city. And we understand, Director and John, that it's not all your kuleana. So we're just saying, what can we do with you to help you, help everybody get on this page together? Because these problems are real. We're facing it now, and we hopefully can head them off so that we're not protesting affordable workforce housing because of quality of life issues.
Yeah, obviously the big choke point is as you get into town and the highway capacity is only so much. Now, we are state is adding a lane, one lane, but more than that, I mean, we're taking out Farrington High School's athletic field. I mean, if we widen highways even more. There was a comment earlier by a resident poo-pooing the skyline system for where it went, but really we get it. If it goes from East Kapolei to Stadium, that's not the most attractive pair for residents. But as we get to the airport, as we get to Middle Street, and particularly as we get to downtown, that will be a major part of our regional transportation capacity will be the rail system. And our intention, frankly, it won't happen necessarily in my lifetime, but I do see that project getting to the UH and getting further into Kapolei, getting certainly to Fort Barrett Road and beyond. But again, those are things that in the way that rail transit goes, those are 40, 50, 60, 70 year type projects. As Kapolei fills in, and I hear you, Chair, on the number of permitted, dwelling units that are yet to be built. That is the critical issue for all of us: is how are we going to keep building and survive as a community without having it become just too unhealthy and unfriendly and too stressful a place to live. So that is, I think, all of our Juliana is to try to navigate through that. I don't have the answer for all of that, but we do what we can at DTS.
Thank you very much for the presentation. We appreciate the work that you're doing. We understand you're doing what you can with the resources that you have, which is not enough. So please don't hesitate to call on us if we can help twist some arms or encourage some people to be inspired to donate towards our causes for better infrastructure for our areas.
And Chair, thank you for providing us the agenda time to present.
Oh, you're definitely welcome. Okay, we have one more presentation this evening. I do apologize that we are going long, and I do recognize that a lot of people came here for board business action items as well. What the chair is inclined to do is after the next presentations, we will not take the state monthly reports from all of the federal and state representatives and go straight to community concerns and get to the business items that people wish to testify on this evening. So if there's no objection from the board members, I would like to rearrange the schedule to make sure our community members can speak during community board concerns and board business, and ask our federal and state counterparts to hold off and do presentations if we time permitting. Hearing no objections from the board, the agenda has been rescheduled, and we invite our final presentation up for this evening, the Cove Redevelopment Project, Environmental Impact Statement and Special Management Area Use Permit. And please welcome, and the floor is yours.
Perfect. Okay, aloha. Aloha, Chair, board members, members of the audience and community. Thank you so much for calling us and asking us to come out and present and share a little bit about what we've been up to. By way of introductions, aloha, my name is Matt Cares from the James Campbell Company, representing the Campbell Cove Kobayashi Partnership. With me tonight are our planning consultants and partners on the project, Tracy Camuso from Group 70 and Noel Besser-Wright. So as some of you may know, the Cove Redevelopment Project located in Kapolei, draft EIS was published on May 8th, 2024. Bit of a housekeeping matter before we move into the presentation. Just wanted to provide a disclosure that we were informed of a trademark usage of the quote name Ko'olina, end quote, which was part of some of the documents submitted to the state. So which is why we've now revised the title of the project moving forward for planning purposes. It will be known as the Cove Redevelopment. The State Office of Planning and Sustainable Development was notified on Monday, May 20th, and the revision will be published in the next environmental notice on June 8th. However, we are going through a branding process. A question? Oh, yeah. Is this better? Okay. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I apologize for that. We are going through a branding process though for a permanent name, and that'll take a little more time to develop. Next slide, please. Again, I did mention it earlier, but just to highlight who we are. Again, myself, Matt Cares, representing the James Campbell Company, and we are putting this development forward in partnership with the Kobayashi Group and Black Sand Capital. Next slide. Okay, just want to orient everyone. I think some of you may know where we're at, but we are in this, the project site is this yellow bounded area right here adjacent to the Ko'olina Resort in Kapolei. It is approximately 10 acres of oceanfront land with surrounding uses including resort, retail, and residential. Currently, it houses the Paradise Cove Luau nightly show. Next slide, please. And just a little further, wanted to dive a little deeper and just give everyone a history of this special place. So the property itself was originally acquired by James Campbell in 1877 as part of his purchase of the Honouliuli Ahupua'a. And upon his death, it passed over to his estate. And from the mid-1930s to the 1970s, it was actually this, along with the neighboring property of Lani Kohunua, was the home of one of James Campbell's daughters, Kamakila Campbell. And then after her passing, the property was put into a commercial use. And upon the termination of the estate, the natural termination in 2007, the property passed from the James Campbell estate to now the James Campbell Company. So today it represents about 147 years of stewardship within the family and now company. Next slide, please. Just giving everyone a little overview of the existing conditions. So as I mentioned earlier, since the 1970s, the property has been used for commercial purposes, primarily for commercial luau, wedding, and entertainment. The first major redevelopment of the property occurred in the 1990s. which saw the construction of many of these structures here you see today. The luau, the stage, kitchen, prep centers, back of house, etc. The last major change was in the early 2000s with the addition of the chapel here. But as we're proposing, and we'll be sharing shortly, our plan kind of represents the first major reinvestment into the property in over 25 years. Next slide, please. And again, just to provide some planning orientation, again, here we are here, we're this pinkish salmon colored B1 zone parcel. So state land use classification, this land area is urbanized. We have business one, neighborhood business zoning. And again, just pointing out some of the surrounding uses, you've got the Four Seasons at Ko'olina, Aulani Hotel, Lani Kuhunua Cultural Institute, the golf course, A1 residential, some more residential here. And then you have some other B2 business and B1 neighborhood business zoning. That's Ko'olina Station. Next, please. Okay, and so here we are just orienting you again to where we are within the EVA development plan. We are in the resort plan area, which is represented by these pink nodes here, and this is us up here. And the Paradise Cove site is located between Lani Kuhunua and the park up here. And as noted in the EVA development plan, versions from 2013 and 2020 is intended for use for resort commercial purposes. Next, please. So recognizing about 10 years ago, we were recognizing that the long-term ground lease for the property was going to be coming to an end, and started doing outreach and planning, both with our family members, our stakeholders and shareholders, and community members. And really, after that 10 years of outreach and the conversations basically inspired this mission statement, which is to achieve a balanced development that honors the history of these EVA lands, the power of place, and Hawaiian culture by transforming the property into a contemporary, authentic Hawaiian gathering place with unique entertainment, dining, and retail experiences for local kama'aina and visitors alike. Next, please. And that mission is what drove us to where we're at today, which is with our conceptual site plan and our reimagining of how to make best use of the site while respecting things like open spaces, certain cultural elements that I can touch on if requested. So if I can have that move forward, Noel. We just want to walk everyone through the site, starting here on the Waianae side. So the first major element is retaining a Hawaiian entertainment and performing arts experience. Frankly, we're not calling it a luau because we envision it something more contemporary and something, I think, more intimate and modern interpretation of what that can be. You might note that this amphitheater, we've relocated it to take really to highlight with an open flowing stage to highlight the views of the Waianae mountain range as well as the ocean. Additionally, this represents about a one halving of the current capacity of the luau that's existing today, which is I think around 1,200 seats, and this maximum capacity would be around 650. Excuse me, 650. Next, please. Now in blue, you'll see 3 different restaurant sites that we're planning for the property. Again, based on the feedback we received from the community and stakeholders, this isn't intended to be fine dining. This is casual, family-friendly dining experiences with open air lanais, access to these protected activity lawns where we're envisioning using landscaping to shield kids from the beach and also keep them contained. So maybe you can be with your family, you can eat, the kids can run around, but you can still keep an eye on them. Next. And then moving on the backside, buttressing that is limited retail. So again, the feedback, we got from stakeholders, keep the retail smaller, but try and seek out local goods, local makers, local brands. Again, we're not talking about Tiffany's or, high-end watches. It's, again, we're not, but it's really we're trying to gear this towards our local community stuff that we want locals to come in and want to experience. Next, please. And spoke to it a little earlier, but again, paying more attention to these activated lawn areas, just again, maintaining more open space, and also preserving some of the significant trees, which are highlighted here, these two Cs. This is a monkey pod, this is a Chinese banyan, this is a Hao tree, and then it's out of the zone, but this is a special Keave tree right here that we're going to preserve. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a quiet guy. I will try and talk louder. Oh, you can't see. Okay. Is this wireless? Yeah. Sorry. All right. Let's put this right here. Okay. No one wanted to see the ash burning? So here at the entrance to the property, this gold band highlighted is what we envision as a village walk, which could be pop-up street walk, inspired by early conversations with community stakeholders. We're intending this may be something for rotational programming, farmers markets, local crafts, and local service providers. Next, please. So I spoke to the overall program, but just wanted to dive in a little bit into the conceptual design elements that we're envisioning. This is all in the EIS, but just as by way of example, wanted to pull out one of the building elevations. So this is one of our restaurant elevations we're working on right now. In orange are kind of these overarching themes we're trying to meet. And so what we see here in this restaurant, the whole idea is to take traditional Hawaiian design, but then provide a contemporary twist to it. So here we're providing for this pitched roof is kind of reminiscent of a canoe hale. The use of wood and natural materials in the building materials, open indoor, outdoor areas and floor plan, and then raised lanais, which acts as, for this particular restaurant, acts as both an architectural feature, and it also protects the structure from future sea level rise based on its location on the property. Next slide. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Tracy.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us today. So Matt got to talk about all the really good stuff. I'm going to go over the really boring stuff, but we're going to get through this. So we're completing 3 different permits and approvals for the project. The first one being an environmental impact statement. From there, we'll be moving to a special management area use permit and then finishing up with a conditional use permit. So just a little bit of process. The environmental impact statement is essentially, it's an environmental disclosure document. We're providing an overview of the project. We're doing an analysis of the existing conditions and then also looking at the proposed project and how it may impact the environment or surroundings. And then finally, we're looking at mitigation. So that's really the process we're in right now, as Matt said. We've completed what's called an environmental impact statement preparation notice, an EISPN, and that's just saying we're doing this project. Now we've moved into the draft EIS phase, which is where we get much more detailed on the analysis. It's a very comprehensive document, and we do take community input and address concerns. So that document was published on May 8th in the state's environmental notice. And so from that time is a 45-day comment period. And that's what we're in right now. So it's really good timing for us to be here. We can take any comments and questions. There's always also ways that you can write in, what have you. So following the 45-day comment period, we move into a final EAS and then looking for DPP's acceptance. So this is a really long list, and I'm not going to read it, but it is essentially the breadth of the topics we cover. It's really every, topic area that may be of interest, of things we really got to think about. That fell to do a good project. So yeah, this was mostly just to show the breadth of the environmental analysis. Next slide. And then we did complete a variety of technical studies for the project, archaeological inventory survey, noise assessments, traffic assessment, infrastructure. So we have completed the technical studies, and they are used to inform the EIS. And they're also all included in there. So it's a pretty comprehensive document. Next slide. Sorry, I have to put my glasses on and off. So special management area use permit is what we would be completing following the.
Is that an
completion.
emergency personnel call? Okay. Okay,
It's important.
no worries. Just making sure you're okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so following the EIS, we'll be moving into the preparation of a special management area use permit. And that is really due to the project's location in the city's designated SMA. So you can see that figure there on the right. As part of this process, we'll be at the neighborhood board like we are tonight. Then we'll be preparing the document. It'll be turned into the city Department of Planning and Permitting. From there, as they're processing, there'll be a public hearing. So another opportunity to continue to get feedback as we proceed along the process. That would then go to the city council and then ultimately passed by resolution. So it's a long process, and we're at the draft phase. So we're pretty early on here. Next slide. And then we'll also be doing a conditional use permit major, which is essentially a permit that just allows the development of, in the city's code, it's called an outdoor recreation facility in the land use code, and the continued use of the commercial use of the site. So that permit would be prepared along with the SMA and turned in at the same time. It's a much shorter process, but they have to be processed at the same time. So those are the three permits. Hopefully you followed along with that. Next slide. And then this is kind of a high level anticipated permitting schedule. So May, as I said, was the publication of the draft EIS. We'll be going through the comment period, looking at all the studies, making sure we're addressing everything. And then we'll be looking to complete the final EIS in October of this year. Following then, we'll be doing the SMA, as I said, and then starting that in November, and then hoping to secure approval for the SMA and the CUP in May of 2025, with construction starting thereafter. So that's our permitting process in a nutshell, and we're happy to answer any questions. So thanks for having us.
Mahalo nui loa. Thank you so much for coming out and giving us an update on the current status of the redevelopment of the Cove project. And we are going to questions from fellow board members first, starting with board member Moon. Hale.
Teresa, Matt, thank you for sharing your presentation. During this permit period and construction period, what's going to happen to the existing Paradise Cove activities, employees, vendors, merch, basically the community? What's going to be happening to our aunties, uncles, and cousins?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. Yeah, just to dive in a little deeper. So the property is under a ground lease with PC Services, which is the operator and the lessee there. And so I can't speak to how they've been communicating. I do know they have 210 employees there, and they are making every effort to make accommodations. And certainly we have an open dialogue with them. I had a meeting yesterday with the owner and operator. And so, I think it's a close, we've been partners with them, the owner and his father, for over 40 years. And so certainly we're not going anywhere. And, we, as much as we can, we're here to help that transition with them.
Thank you. A follow-up question? Okay, no, going to next board member, Dr. Amy Bosler.
Thank you. Thank you for your design. It was beautiful and coming to share with us. You talked about the activated lawn areas and how you might make natural barriers to keep children in.
Yeah.
But also it said about this would be a place that they could run wild. As a parent of young children, that sounds a little terrifying. Not for me. I'll be happily, enjoying my meal, but the other diners and the other community members might not appreciate children running wild. So I was wondering if you considered some sort of natural play setting. Like we don't have many here, but on the mainland, different cities, especially San Antonio, they have a lot of, when in their designs, they create natural play areas that children can go and be at while the families are enjoying the meal and they're not becoming problems for other diners. Because that was my biggest concern is that, if you have children running wild, they're gonna get really Kapolei fast.
Yeah, that's a great comment. Actually, Noel, do we have, are we controlling this? I mean, go back to the concept. I've got it.
Even if it's something as simple as like, I know some cities put in water
Like splash pad or something.
A natural kind of splash pad, so it's both beautiful, aesthetically pleasing, and then also something that could be played in.
Yeah, totally. And I can expand on this site plan a little bit. And so I think part of that will be accomplished with how we program the site. We are talking to folks to help us with cultural programming, which includes education and like specific like age group programming. So I will speak to, we have these three, we have kind of this area right here. This isn't marked, but this is like a cultural storytelling pavilion here. This over here, K, this is our canoe Hale. But it's not like for, if any of you are paddlers, this isn't like a 6-man storage area. This is more like something you might see where the friends of Hokole and Hawaii Loa are coming in and doing demonstrations and, purpose education. And then this lawn right here, we're envisioning as, we're calling it the garden space, but it is like this gathering space. And, maybe there is some interpretive play equipment we can work with. And then obviously you have the natural beach, but, that's, if parents aren't comfortable with their children in the water, that's a whole other ball of wax. But I appreciate the comment.
Any other follow-up questions? Okay, going to board member and secretary Mikiela Lindstone.
Any part of this residential, all commercial?
No, yeah, the whole 10 acres is commercial zoned.
Just one suggestion, it would be nice to have, when construction occurs, an archaeologist on site during construction, just in case something, just because it's close to the ocean, you never know what could perhaps come up.
I appreciate that. And certainly we're in the middle of going through our burial treatment plan now. I will say, again, since this site, there's a lot, there are EV. And I'm just pausing because there's a lot of sensitivity because a lot of the family members are descendants of folks that are interred here. And so right here, this site here is probably the most sensitive. When we did our archaeological inventory survey, as well as we've done 3 in the last 25 years, including the most recent one for this project. This site here is probably the most sensitive one. And so there's going to be not only a 10-foot buffer during construction, that buffer is going to be actually 30 feet, and there will be continuous monitoring every day during construction. But there's going to be a permanent buffer that's going to be put on title once we are finished with construction. For this site, there's another sensitive site over here. There's a lava tube. No identified finds, but there's just the mold, although we know that there's a certain level of sensitivity. So, right now there's certain precautions being taken and respect given to that area, and that would continue.
It's just such a fascinating historical site. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Welcome.
Well, any further questions from fellow board members at this time? Seeing none, let's open up the forum to community members at large. And yeah, come on up.
Thank you, board. Thank you, board. Thank you for the presentation. Aloha, my name is Ken Williams. I'm going to be as quickly as I can, but I have a lot to say. I am the general manager of the Ko'olina Community Association and the Ko'olina Resort Operators Association. Thank you for letting me speak. I have worked at the resort for 35 years. Since 1989, Herbert Harita hired me as his development project manager. I've been very fortunate to be part of this project since its inception. I've worked at the resort for, excuse me. Today I am here to oppose the redevelopment of Paradise Cove as planned and described in the environmental impact statement released last week. This is not easy for me to do, as it goes against our upbringing in Hawaii to talk negatively about anything, but opposition on behalf of Ko'olina against this redevelopment is necessary, so here goes. The 350-page document basically says there will be no significant impacts on anything. That's not true. The Ko'olina Community Association was incorporated in 1989 and is responsible for the care, maintenance, and security of all common areas within the resort, along with any efforts that support and protects the interests of our resort. Ko'olina Resort common areas, including roads, beaches, interchange, and park area, and everything else is privately paid for by each and every owner at the resort, from the hotels and golf course to our 1,200 residential members and tens of thousands of timeshare owners. Everyone pays their fair share, no exceptions. Any of you who live in a master plan community or in a condominium know what that's about. There are a few key impacts that this project will have on the community with which we are a part of, with which this project is a part of. It's not a neighboring community, it is the community. Here are the few key impacts. The Cove Project by Campbell Estate and the Kobayashi Group has no intention to contribute a penny for the Ko'olina's roads, front gate, security, maintenance, capital improvements, and so on. They have not extended any offer to be a member of the Ko'olina Community Association or the Ko'olina Operators Association, our marketing and branding arm. The Cove Project will impact traffic at the resort entry, especially with its increased commercial use, which triples from 23,000 square feet of commercial area up to 75,000 square feet. That's up 3 times, okay? Traffic also will definitely increase during daytime hours as the proposed development envisions 3 large restaurants and 8 retail spaces that equal the size of the Ko'olina station already in place. There are no restaurants or retail areas on the current Paradise Cove and minimal daytime use. This is a significant change with impacts. Ko'olina Resort has more than enough retail. With the increased uses on the property, there is no doubt there will be traffic jams at the front and Ko'olina that will impact all who work and live here. This redevelopment will disrupt the impact of Ko'olina master plan. Our master plan already accounts for a sufficient amount of commercial area dispersed throughout the project, some of which have not yet been built because of timing and appropriateness. Ko'olina has always been careful and selective in choosing what and who comes next. For example, hotels at Ko'olina are currently Marriott, Disney, and Four Seasons, 3 outstanding hotels. Over the years, it would have been easy to allow a Motel 6 or a Holiday Inn on property, but a mix that is both complementary and appropriate is what is necessary when developing a successful master plan community. Paradise Cove and Lani Kuhonua were always considered in the Ko'olina master plan as the Hawaiian cultural area. This EIS depicts the new development as a Hawaiian cultural center that may, I'll say that again, may have Hawaiian products, and the restaurants may include Hawaiian sourced foods. Very nebulous. Doesn't appear to be a Hawaiian cultural center anymore. I think we all can agree that retail is dying a slow death, not only in Kapolei and Oahu, but in the world. With the closures of large malls across the nation, it is clearly evident that online competition from Amazon and others makes retail a less than desirable use. Can also be said that luau operations are plentiful on the island, with the Ever region already saturated with 7 luau operations. Paradise Cove, Kawa'a Luau at Disney, Fia Fia Luau and Marriott, Germain's Luau, Wet and Wild Water Park Luau, Coral Crater Luau, and Hawaii Country Club Luau. In addition, Ko'olina does not need more restaurants, and if these 3 are approved, it would impact the following current restaurants at Ko'olina negatively. Restaurants at Ko'olina: Ko'olina Center, Eggs and Things, Farm to Barn, 808 Craft House, Makiko Cantina, Ko'olina Island Country Market, Monkey Pod Kitchen, Black Sheep, Starbucks, Ko'olina Golf Club, Roy's Restaurant, Snack Bar, Manalo Lounge, Mina's Fish House, Lahiki, Dr. Mai Tais, Hokulea, Waterman Bar, Noi, Ama Ama, Makahiki, Ulu Cafe, Off the Hook, the Olelo Room, Wailana Pool Bar, Mama's Snack Shop, Papalua Shave Ice, Little Opi's, Makai Beach Bar, Marriott's Ko'olina, Longboards, Longies, Night Up Pool Bar, and the Marketplace. We got plenty of restaurants. These are all the restaurants currently at Ko'olina. And for everyone's information, there are 140 restaurants in Kapolei. Notable restaurants that have closed: Outback Steakhouse, Ruby's Tuesdays, Ho Ho Chinese, I love them, Plantation Tavern. The Cove redevelopment will also impact the community association's liability, as more people will be on the property, and we all know things happen. And the resort members foot the liability bill. More people will have access to the beach fronting Paradise Cove, as well as the Ko'olina lagoons. A restroom is needed for the Paradise Cove Lani Kuhonua public access. People now relieve themselves on the sand, in the bushes, and in the ocean. How long is this going to go on? The natural resources here are pristine, I need not say that, and needs much better stewardship. The EIS says again, they may build a restroom and public improvements. There's that may word again. Monk seals and turtles also frequent the area, and more care for this area needs to be prioritized. Also, only 15 parking stalls are available for the public. Needs more. With this project located front and center at Ko'olina Resort, one would think that the applicants would at least have talked to us before filing the EIS. My phone, email, and text were silent. I've been sitting next to this phone for 35 years. I have been there for 35 years, and I didn't even get the courtesy of an alert that this was happening. The EIS last week, that is. Definitely all done by design. As for the current operation at Paradise Cove, which the EIS says will end at the end of 2025, what is the plan for the 200 employees who live on the leeward side and who have worked for Paradise Cove, some for decades? Many of us know them, entertaining our guests from all over the world. One employee celebrated today at 4 p.m. his farewell and retirement after 20 years. They will all lose their jobs come December 2025. Ko'olina will help in any way we can, but it's unfortunate there is no consideration given to their plight by the applicants. There are also very sensitive archaeological sites that were mentioned on the Cove property, like ancestral bones and bones that are beyond significant. The treatment of these culturally significant sites are not addressed fully in the EIS. There are many more adverse impacts, but I will end with a significant infringement on the use of the word Ko'olina in their name. The Cove at Ko'olina, Ko'olina is a registered trademark. No permission was given for use of this name, Ko'olina. As such, this EIS needs to be withdrawn, as Campbell Estate and the Kobayashi Group are misleading people by using this unauthorized name, which has the effect of inferring that the Cove is part of the Ko'olina Resort and that Ko'olina Resort is in support of this project. If I haven't made myself clear by now, we are not in support of this Paradise Cove redevelopment project. Thank you very much for allowing me this time.
Mahalo. Before you head back, because you were provided significant testimony on this issue, is there any questions from fellow board members to the testifier? So the one question that I have that comes to mind, or a few questions. The first is, how is the negative impacts that you raised already not the case with the current operations or public engagement access? How is the redevelopment, given it's going from a 1,200 parcel to a 600 parcel, like for engagement, going to negatively impact particularly when you said there's common use ways, right? Like, so is not the landowner and the property people right now already contributing to the roadways coming in?
No.
And are those roadways private
Yes.
roadways?
We paved them. I paid, you know what? I know how much it costs to pave a road.
Gotcha.
We maintain, we have security, we have a front gate. We own everything from the interchange through the resort. We do not provide a burden to the city and county of Honolulu in any way. No traffic pickup, no bus pickup, no anything. Okay, so everything we do on the resort is done with private funds. We just changed out all of our traffic, all of our street lights, 400 of them. All right, we got 300 monkey pot trees that we need to trim twice a year. We have major costs and capital improvements that are ongoing. To keep a project like that, that's 30 years old, looking the way it is today, it wasn't by mistake. It was by a lot of commitment in financial resources and effective use and efficient use of that money.
Well, that's helpful. And do you have any documentation that helps to clarify when Ko'olina was set up with the master planning and what the relationship should be with this particular parcel? Because it sounds like this particular parcel was recognized for a certain thing and that they had that kuleana and everybody else was doing their own thing over there. Like, so that's what it sounds like. So it would be really helpful to understand what was the original relationship that was set up.
Well, yes, the land is legacy, and the land has been cared for by the Campbell family for a long time. But in the 1980s, they sold 600 acres of those lands. Okay, the legacy was over. They kept 10 acres, 20 acres of the legacy. All right, we managed 620 acres of that legacy, and they didn't sell it to us for love, right? They sold it for a profit. So I appreciate the talk about the legacy and everything, but it's Ko'olina's legacy right now. We are been there for 35 years. We built beaches. We allow the public in with 200 plus parking stalls. We have done our part over the years, and I am in charge, and I make sure that we live up to our promises that Herbert Harita started, and then Jeff Stone continued.
Okay, appreciate mahalo for answering those questions. Okay, now let's go to the person that wants to provide a question or comment.
May I, Mr. Chair?
Yes, of course, go right ahead.
Mahalo. First time presenting before this very distinguished board. The only person I know on the board is Kenny, Dr. Dudley. It's been a long time, sir. Nice to see you. May I introduce myself, please? I am Kamaki Hale. At present, I am the director of the Native Hawaiian Traditional Healing Center at the Waianae Coast Comprehensive Health Center, and I am also the president of the Nanakuli Hawaiian Homestead Community Association. I am formally here to oppose your development project. It is very destructive culturally. By the way, I knew Kamakila Campbell personally, and I also knew Quentin and the entire family, and I was one of the main speakers at Kekaulike's funeral services. So well acquainted with the Campbell family, and they would absolutely oppose this development and the destruction of many of the things that I am seeing here in their design. One of the projects, well, one of the problems that I'm also having is that there are two sacred sites on this property. The first is under the banyan tree where the ancient iwi, or the bones of the ancestors of the Campbell Ohana, are there. In fact, even before that, the Koranakoa heirs. And on that site, just mauka of the banyan tree across the street is the pathway of the night marchers. Anybody who knows the Waianae side knows of these ancient legends. And as far as I'm concerned, they still exist, they live, and they're alive and well. My task then as president, and of course as a traditional healer, is to protect these sites and these practices, that they never be destroyed and never go away. This development worries us And we absolutely opposed the development of this project. 100%, Mr. Chairman. And no, I hope I don't have to come back here again, because every time Kanele shows up, you know, I knew I had somebody. But I think if this is going to happen, trust me, I will rise up the community. By the way, the gentleman in the back of me also is the president of the Waianae Homestead Association, who is also here to oppose it. And stop this development in any way we can, even if it takes hundreds of us holding signs to prevent it. It's a very serious matter for us. It's a cultural matter for us as well. And we are very concerned about it. Mahalo nui loa for your time. I appreciate it.
Mahalo. Any questions for the testifier? The only question I have, Uncle Kamaki, is how is the particular areas that you have noted as being culturally sensitive being taken care of now, particularly with the path of the night marchers, Mauka of that property,
Right.
Because that's not in their jurisdiction, right? So like that's in Ko'olina proper. Like how is that being taken care of?
It's the pathway. It begins from the Mauka side and it goes across the highway and it goes right into the Campbell Estate properties. Right around the banyan tree, there are 3 tunnels there. And by the way, the entrance to the lagoons is also the entrance to the ancient Aumakua Mano, the sharks. And so it's a very delicate and sensitive area, culturally sensitive, and we need to do everything that we can to protect it.
Mahalo. Chair recognizes Secretary Michaela Lindstone.
Mahalo. Talking about legacy, you, sir, are legacy before us. Were you consulted at all on this project?
On what?
Were you consulted at all on this project? Consulted or?
Zero. I assure you, nobody on all the homestead areas in Waianae has ever been consulted. None of us. And that's what got me annoyed enough to get up and get over here and make sure our positions are clear.
Is the first time you heard about this project from the press release, or how did you first hear about this project?
Gossip, rumor, finally had to come and ask this gentleman what is happening and what is going on, and he confirmed my very, very frightening thoughts about what might happen if something like this occurs.
Mahalo.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mahalo, Mr. Chairman. Ahuyo.
Okay. Ahuiho malama pona. We'd like to welcome any other community members to ask their questions, given the presentation, express their concerns. So we have heard certain concerns already from the community. So if they are repetitive because of time, please just say, I agree with what they said, and then get to the additional points so that we can hear new information, please.
My name is Kevin Makainai Garcia, and I live in Ko'olina, and I'm opposing the project. Exactly for the same reason the gentleman said, but mainly on a horticultural side. And I do appreciate you guys keeping it more in the Hawaiian theme rather than Waikiki. But we have 2 roads going in and 2 roads going out. I heard a lot about community input. This was the first I heard about it. If I wasn't on the board of directors, I would never have been here tonight. The other issue I have is in your environmental impact statement, you talked about infrastructure and all that. We just heard dialogue about Kapolei being at its capacity. Ko'olina is no different. Every day in the 2 roads going in and 2 roads going out, we have people cutting the medial strip. They're coning off one road. We have a lot of traffic. They built a marketplace, and I don't think they had planned for it. There is no parking. We have tourists walking all over the place. The trucks, delivery trucks come in, buses have to make U-turns. And if we add this project, there's no talk about how are you going to flow people in and out in that one entrance that chokes off Ko'olina. And that's a concern for me, just because that community is about to explode. And that's all I have, and I totally agree.
Mahalo, we have heard community members come and share their general opposition. We do want to say if there's anyone that wishes to provide general support and reasons why they support the project, we will welcome that at this time, if anybody would like to do that. Otherwise, if we will continue with those that would like to express concerns and raise questions. Okay. Come.
Thank you. My name is Beth Rubenstein, and I'm here with my husband, Richard Rubenstein, who's a board member of the Kailani Association. I'd like to thank the board for hearing us. And also, I would like to thank many of our Kailani community members and friends online virtually. Thank you so much for your input. We had no idea the depth of the cultural impact. We knew about it and hinted about it, but it was wonderful to hear this. We also were not communicated with. This community input that was presented, we're part of the community. We are the community. We are the co-leader community. All of our associations, our AOAs, we are the community. We have not had any input on this. This is all new to us. Concerns, I will just go over a bullet list. This can be elaborated, but I'm not going to elaborate. That can be done later. Noise and monitoring of decibel levels from luau and entertainment activities, light pollution, traffic congestion and control, parking pressure, both legal and illegal, monitoring and control of all access points to the proposed project, environmental impact on existing sea and wildlife. We are gifted with the presence of a variety of sea turtles and sea monks, monk seals that come and visit our areas. Okay, increase of rodent, feral cat, and non-native avian wildlife, garbage storage and collection, Hawaiian cultural authenticity versus commercialization, security in general to include 24-hour security protocols to address open access from our Kailani complex. The front entrance of Kailani is gated, but the ocean side of the complex has open access that is adjacent to the proposed project complex situated along Lot 7, Federal Railroad access, and Lot 8. Project hours of operation and impact on the Kailani community. Construction duration and disruption for Kailani residents because we are directly adjacent to this project. Protection and preservation of the natural beach areas on both sides of the proposed project. Use of resources and infrastructure integrity to support a large-scale venue. Runoff of polluted waters from complex parking and entertainment areas. Air and noise pollution from various activities, emergency access and egress in the presence of large crowds, landscaping screening to protect Kailani residential view and noise barrier. I will present some photos. Scale of all building structures, a clear understanding of the exact land use, open communication to include the input of all Colina AOAOs, financial responsibility for community services provided by COCA proportional to AOAO residential dues. These are just some of our concerns. We oppose this project being proposed today. And I'd like to thank you for giving us the time. Now I'd like to give you a visual. This is a visual from our Kailani, our community, in 2018. This is the back parking lot area of the current Paradise Cove. This is what we always looked at and actually enjoyed in 2018. When there was an attempt to expand their parking lot facility, this became our view. The beautiful makipā trees and those tree growths were all torn down. This became our view. COCA, our representative of our Colina community, graciously stepped in and planted a tree hedge. It took 3 years for that to go in to provide some coverage of an employee parking lot. Now, with the duration of this construction, how long are we going to look at that parking lot? And after construction, how long are we going to be living with that parking lot and that complex? Colina has a beautiful community. We all contribute to the beauty of this. Many of us settled there as a home. Many of us respect the cultural integrity of the group. The Hawaiian artifacts, the history, We look at that banyan tree every single day from our lanai, and we participate and view when Auntie Nettie comes out to bless that banyan tree. That is part of the culture that we love, the aloha welcome of the Ko'olina community. We are passionate about this community, and we hope others can recognize and respect our passion. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments and concerns that you raised. And just as a reminder, friendly reminder, please, when you're testifying or providing your comments, just testify to me because I'm a neutral party. So you can beat up on me, no problem. For the sake of our community members, please direct all comments to me. Now let's go to some friends online. Our community member, William.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you. Great.
Very
Go
good.
ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a long-term resident of Kailani as well, just like the previous speaker, and a person who has enjoyed the Ko'olina area for many years. And this particular project is going to have a very large adverse impact on Ko'olina in general and on Kailani, the nearest residents specifically. We're about 300 yards from the proposed new amphitheater border. And the sound amplification that comes off the present location, which is further away, is already at a noxious level. And with the proposed move of the amphitheater to the other side of the property, we will really be directly affected in profound ways. But if we go through the EIS, and I don't want to, I'll try not to repeat anything that's been said by previous speakers. I want to add a couple of things. The EIS shows that the new proposed plan, which is Ken pointed out is almost 3 times larger, cannot handle the parking. It's a fascinating admission in the EIS. That, of course, raises the indelicate question, will there be overflow parking? Will it go elsewhere in the resort? Might it be proposed for the meadow, which, of course, many of us want to keep in an open space condition? Elsewhere in the EIS, it talks about increased amount of water usage, wastewater generation, and so forth. Fascinating statistic. There's going to be 7 times more wastewater generated by this new plan than the current situation.
Exactly.
All of these impacts, of course, have to ultimately go into Ko'olina Resort's infrastructure setup. It is the one that has the sewer lines, the water lines, the telecom lines, the roadways. And as was mentioned by Ken in his remarks, there's been no proposal to deal with the costs of that. So this is a proposition that proposes to impose major new costs on the resort with no reimbursement, proposes to have major new congestion and noise impacts, brings the resort no new benefits, and as the eloquent gentleman from Nanakuli said, it is defiant of the Hawaiian culture that that property particularly stands for. So many of us at Ko'olina feel adamantly opposed to this plan as proposed. Indeed, the current operation of the luau is quite troublesome. I'm glad to hear that the lease is just about expiring. And I do think that if the Campbell Group and its operator really wishes to rethink that property, its first step is to sit down with the leadership groups at Ko'olina and figure out something that works for everybody. I'll add my voice that I too tried very hard to keep informed about this. There was absolutely no information coming from the developer or his representatives until the EIS and the newspaper reports and so forth came out quite recently. And that's a scandal considering they have been working on this for 10 years. Thanks so much for listening to me.
Thank you, community member, Mr. William. Now let's go to another online friend with Karen Polk. Oh, sorry. Karen Messon. If you could unmute, if you're still willing to speak with us.
Unmute. There you go. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, good now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Go ahead.
I too am also a resident in the Ko'olina community in the coconut plantation. And we do, as Kevin, who is also one of my board members, mentioned about the delivery traffic and things like that. And you appropriately asked about the hours of operation for Paradise Cove as they exist now and the potential operating hours of the established plan that we see on paper. As a past retail vice president as well at Macy's, I have a real good handle on what it takes to run a retail establishment and a development of this type, as does Ken. But certainly if there's going to be restaurants, are they going to be breakfast restaurants? Because then employees will be coming into the community very early in the morning. Currently, Paradise Cove operates between 5 and 9 weekdays and weekends and nothing else. There's no other business over there during the week period. The engineer's study, based upon correctly, I think the gentleman pointed out, the wastewater study is at least 6.5 times, and the visitation study showed a 1,900 visitations on a daily basis via conflicting information on the traffic study and conflicting information on the engineer's study, because Paradise Cove now receives over 65% of its visitors by vehicle and some by bus and only 10% by foot traffic. The road study indicated that, oh, we're going to do the road study between 6 and 9 in the morning and then 3 and 6 in the afternoon. Well, these are neither retail hours or restaurant hours. And the impact study on traffic said, oh, well, we anticipate 800 more in those hours, but then we're going to take away 80% of that because that's going to be foot traffic to the area. Well, that's very incongruous with the engineer's study as well. So I, as also the others have spoken, am opposed to the development and also critical of the supporting EIS documents in conflict of each other. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you for your comments and noting your opposition to the project and your concerns. Any other community member wishing to testify on this matter, or do we have others online? Miss Margaret, you're up.
Hi there. I want to echo the comments by Ken and Beth and William and Karen that we just heard. As a resident there, property owner at Kailani, I do not think this development is appropriate. I am, have seen that the current management does not properly maintain what is being presented at the property right now. And so I have serious concerns about their ability to manage a development that is so greatly expanded. Thank you very much for allowing me to comment.
Okay. Is there any other testifiers online? See, not any other testifiers?
Yes.
Oh, we have someone online. We didn't see your hand.
Oh, Kalamai.
Okay.
This is Ulukua.
Okay, go right ahead, community member Ulukua.
I'm sorry. I raised my hand. I didn't see it raised on my computer, but I have it raised. But I apologize.
We see it now. No problem.
Oh,
go right ahead.
Okay. I'm calling in from Geneva right now. This is very important. I was gonna speak to the those cultural properties, the archaeological resources also. I was gonna address that, but after seeing Uncle Kamaki come up, nui ko aloha to Uncle Kamaki. I like to support everything that he said about being against the project. But just for the sake of, should any kind of construction activity occur, it's important that they do have cultural deposits that need to be thoroughly checked. I'm talking about the marshland area that's underground that would be dug up. And then I also wanted to ask about the how that would affect the subterranean waters and then going out to the ocean front itself. I noticed in the EIS it talks about maintaining public access along the shore, but currently there's not really any public access along the shore there because of the luau. So I'm not sure if they're gonna like open it up that you could walk along from Turtle's side, walk along the shore and along the cliff line and access that way, or we'd get kicked out. I'm not sure how they're saying that they're gonna maintain access. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up is that it's really contradictory or ironic. I don't know what is the correct term, but you have all of these Ko'olina people talking about how they want to respect the land and it's gonna protect the resources and the environment and all that. And you know what? Let me state for the record, you guys damaged the environment. The beaches, the coastline, the way it used to be before they used dynamite to make those lagoons was absolutely God-givenly beautiful. It was perfect. But we are at where we're at now. It's still beautiful, but there was a lot of damage done. And some of you folks talking about, you feel like, oh, it's not nice to be not included. I'm not talking about Uncle Kamaki. I'm talking about the Ko'olina, personnel. Now you know how it feels, because when you guys, for the last 30 years, how you kept Honokai Hale out of any consultation, conversation, kuka, nothing. And yeah, let's move forward. Let's come together. Let's talk about things. But now you know how it feels. So I want to state that for the record. And I am against the project. Mahalo.
Mahalo, community member Ulukua from Honokai Hale. Any other community members wishing to provide testimony, questions regarding the presentation at this time? Okay, I see two hands, so please come up. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Thank you, Chair. Peter Togawa. Aloha all. I'm here to express my opposition to the current draft of the environmental impact statement for the redevelopment of the Cove at Ko'olina. While I appreciate the extensive efforts made to engage with various state, county, and tourism authorities, I am deeply concerned about the apparent lack of communication and collaboration with two critical stakeholders, the Ko'olina Community Association, KOKA, and the Ko'olina Resort Association, KORA. As you are aware, KOKA and KORA play pivotal roles in representing the interests of both residents and businesses within the Ko'olina Resort community. Their involvement is crucial for ensuring that any new development and the marketing efforts aligns with the broader community vision, standards, and expectations. The absence of their input in the current EIS draft poses several significant issues. One, lack of community alignment. Without the engagement of KOKA and KORA, there's a substantial risk the project may not align with the overall aesthetic, operational, and community standards of Ko'olina. This misalignment could, and as we've heard, lead to conflicts and hinder the successful integration of the new development. Number two, insufficient addressing of community concerns. KOKA and KORA are best positioned to provide insights into the concerns and expectations of the local community. Their feedback is essential for addressing potential issues, proactively ensuring the development meets the needs and preferences of residents and businesses alike. Number three, missed opportunities for collaboration. Engaging with KOKA and KORA can unlock opportunities, joint marketing, promotion activities, and community integration, enhancing overall success and acceptance of the project. Given these points, I strongly urge Cove Campbell Kobayashi LLC to initiate immediate and meaningful engagement with both KOKA and KORA. This should include formal consultations, community engagement sessions, and regular updates to incorporate their feedback into the project plans. In conclusion, it is imperative that this redevelopment be undertaken with the full involvement of all major stakeholders, particularly KOKA and KORA. Their collaboration is essential to ensuring West Side communities see benefit from the opportunities presented that the project is an enhancement to the unique appeal and quality of life in the Ko'olina Resort community. Thank you for your attention to the matter and for allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Mahalo for providing your comments and yes.
We had the high-powered minds.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Keone Dudley, for calling the orders of the day. But as I stated originally, this is our community forum, and as long as we have community speak, we will allow that because that is our rules. So unless the board overrules me, we will continue with having community members provide their response because they came out this evening to speak on this issue. So we should allow them the space to speak. So please come. Fully recognizing that we have the high-powered issue that we got to get to. We might not have a recess next month.
Aloha, Chairman.
Aloha. Please introduce yourself and speak.
I'm Greg Nichols. I'm the General Manager and Director of Golf at Ko'olina Golf Club. I've been privileged to work at Ko'olina and be a part of the Greater West Side community since 2002. I'm also privileged to serve on the Ko'olina Community Association as a board member for several years. I'll make this quick and I'll try not to be redundant. I'm here to express my opposition as well. Ko'olina is a great place to live, work, and play. Currently, all major resort stakeholders share and take great pride in maintaining the high standards and common areas that everyone does enjoy, both residents, visitors, and guests alike, whether it be the private roads, walk paths, beaches, landscapings, bathrooms, gates, securities, etc. We've heard a lot about conversations with stakeholders. I would really encourage you to have those conversations with the stakeholders. Before moving forward with the development, I've got a lot of aloha for the Kobayashis and the Campbell Estate. And I would really encourage you to reach out to the long-term stakeholders of all of the Ko'olina Resort to discuss the development plan, identify both long-term benefits and all of the concerns. And most importantly, agree to participate along with all of the major stakeholders to ensure that the best interests of all who live, work, and visit Ko'olina continue to be met should the development take place. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any other community member wishing to speak on this issue or to provide questions or comments? Hearing none in person, a Kapolei Hale, or seeing no virtual hands go up online, we now allow the presenters to share any final mana'o with the board and the community before we transition. So you're welcome to address comments or concerns or provide any feedback you wish. Your final remarks, please.
I appreciate that, Chair, board members, and members of the community. Thank you. I know there was a lot covered tonight, and just to say certainly the purpose of the EIS process is to have conversations like this, have these conversations happen, and then start building on them. So we're going to address every one of those comments in writing. And also, I'll be around after if any of you want to talk to me, and we can kind of continue that on the side. So we're not taking up the board's time. Just want to address a couple points that were brought up. I know this is a kind of a convoluted situation of, are we in the resort? Are we not in the resort? We are not in the resort. However, we do view ourselves as neighbors. And so as neighbors, we want to have those neighborly conversations and continue them. Okay. I think I'll turn Tracy, any other closing comments?
No, I mean, I think that was a lot of information and we will take all that. We hear it all. We took some notes. I think we're going to look back at this presentation. It's the first part of the EIS process. We kind of went through this. We've got the SMA, we've got the CUP, there's public hearings. I mean, we're not going to get all the way through the end without stepping forward from the beginning. So this is where we're coming in and taking the beating in the beginning. And then, we're going to keep on going and kind of get to a place where hopefully we can experience this really special place. I go to Aulani all the time, so I really love this place as well. I have two little boys that love it here too. So it's, it's important for us to do a good job. And I think there are some coordination efforts that have to be made more with the neighbors. And so we're at an early phase. And, like Matt said, that's why we're here. And we're happy to, talk later outside, or also please write in, because then we can get you point by point and make sure we're answering your questions and including it in the document. So long night, but we appreciate having the opportunity to be here and share the project. And I think it's the first step of many. So that's it. Yeah.
Mahalo nui loa. Thank you for coming and providing the presentation, giving a community update. So what I heard as the chair is that there's a definite desire to further kuka to talk story about the project development and how it would go forward if it goes forward. Particularly from Koka, Kora, the Hawaiian Homestead Community Associations, the Ho'olina Associations, the Honokai Hale community, and definitely those community members that want to see cultural practices along the area be protected. So those are all the things that I've heard from our community members here. And current positions are very much no, but maybe in conversations, they can figure out a win-win situation as we move forward together. And our neighborhood board community forum welcomes you to come back after addressing these concerns so that we can have other healo face-to-face conversations regarding this. If you don't actually go and share with them particularly, we'll definitely host you here.
Yeah, happy to come back anytime.
Okay, thank you. Now with that modified program, we're going to community concerns, and the first person with a concern to raise is Dr. Keone Dudley.
Mr. Chair, I want to bring up the concern about the high-powered lines that we're just beginning to hear about. But these are, as you know, our neighborhood board opposed high-powered lines coming down Farrington Highway that are already there and going into Ho'opili. HECO came to us about 3 days before the PUC approved those lines. And we have a resolution opposing the lines, asking the PUC to remove them. We also have we don't, but a group of us have a lawsuit trying to force HECO to put the lines underground. And now they are coming up with wanting to put up more lines on Farrington Highway. These are extremely high-powered lines. There's a tremendous problem of fires, a problem of hurricanes, and there's a meeting coming up. The reason I'm pushing this so hard is the meeting is on June 4th. It's the first we've all heard about it. And the PUC is asking the community to voice their concerns. I would like to go to that meeting and ask everybody else to go also. I don't think that we can take a vote on anything tonight because it's not on the agenda. We could?
2/3.
Okay.
I'll make a recommendation, Vice Chair. Given the sensitivity and the timeliness of this, what I would recommend, given that we already have standing positions on power lines, we have 2 resolutions, one to address concerns with the power lines in Ho'opili, this above line, and then another resolution that stipulates that all power lines within our district should be underground. So we also have a resolution communicating our concerns over the dumping grounds that is the west side with landfills and H Power and ash. So my recommendation is that you authorize the chair to send those 3 resolutions with a cover letter, just providing the context of the meeting. So we're not gonna have new positions. I'm just officially putting forward our 3 resolutions with a nice cover letter that ties-able with who is addressed to. So that would be my recommendation if we want to go forward with a motion.
With a motion, is that what you said? Okay. I move to support that.
Okay, so the first procedural issue we have to do is we have to take a 2/3 vote to place it on the agenda. So at this time, I will ask for any objections from board members to place on the agenda authorizing the chair to send the 3 resolutions, the 2 on our power lines and the other on landfills, to the PUC with a cover letter stipulating that it's going to the PUC and it's from our board officially. Like,
Chair, just real quick, I don't believe you need a motion in order to add submitting testimony. You're well within your rights to submit testimony.
okay. Recognizing that we're well within our rights, but we also had that whole hubbubaloo that we had before. So let's make this on the record. For those that were tracking with us, we've gotten in trouble. So is there any objection to placing that on the agenda? Hearing none, the chair calls it unanimous. It's now on the agenda to send our 3 resolutions with a cover letter from the chair stipulating our positions to the Public Utilities Commission for their June hearing. Now, I also have to allow our community members and any board members to discuss. So can I entertain a motion to actually approve it now that it's on the agenda, and then we'll open up testimony?
So moved.
It's been moved by Dr. Dudley, second by board member Hale. And now we open up for community discussion. Anybody has any 2 cents they want to share about us sending our positions to the PUC? Uncle, yes, go right ahead. Come.
I'm absolutely opposed to any overhead power lines, particularly in the matter of safety. It's bad enough that we got to look at the rail, and now we have to look at the power lines. But the visual effects of it are not really significant. What's significant is Makakilo is the second driest place in the state after Waikoloa. If we have a hurricane or something like that, these power lines are coming down. They're going to hit the grass. They're going to light it on fire. And all these people in the valleys, they cannot get out. You can't run uphill in front of a fire. And if this happens with wind, it could wipe out West Oahu. These lines would come down, all the grass would catch on fire. People would try to run up the valleys, and you can't run up the valley because fire travels up. And if there's wind, it would happen so swiftly. I mean, you remember when the Vandals lit 4 valleys on fire and it was like there was no wind? But this problem is going to come with the wind. I don't know what the differentiation cost is in burying it in overhead.
Okay.
But that has to be considered. But they're just going to have to bear that cost. You can't jeopardize a whole community over cost.
Thank you. If there's no further testifiers, I'm going to call for the vote. If there's no discussion before the board, as it's procedural at this point, see discussion from the board or further testifiers. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed say a'ole. Any abstentions say kanalua. Chair calls it unanimous. We got it on the docket. And at this time, since we are at 10 o'clock and some, the chair will now defer all rest of the items on the agenda to the June meeting, except for the June recess, because we can't take recess because we didn't finish our work this month. So we'll have more to do next month. And with that, join us for our June meeting on the 4th Wednesday, and you guys have a wonderful evening. Aloha, ahui ho, malama for coming. Thank you very much, and the meeting is adjourned.